OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Right, bang at 7:30 this Tuesday morning. The world and his wife are down in Adare Manor, and so is Owen Sheahan. Owen, good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, Ger. A very good morning to you. How are things?
What's it like? Rubbing shoulders and that's all?
Yeah, I was rubbing shoulders. Nathan got to rub Jordan Spieth's shoulders yesterday, which was obviously the highlight of the day from an OTB perspective. It is miserable enough weather-wise. Sorry, go ahead.
I noticed Jordan Spieth's wife insisted on being present whenever Jordan and Nathan were alone.
Very much so. She was looking after him quite closely, and it seemed that she was looking after him more closely after Nathan had spoke to him, because I only saw them, hanging around together after Nathan had spoke to them, and she was keeping quite a close guard of him. And Nathan came up to me and was like, "Job done. Jordan Spieth interview in the can." And I think, we're all quite happy with how things turned out for him, right? This is not something we need to be envious of or we need to be overly critical of. This is something that's just a great moment of him for him.
I think it's a great moment in the 20-year history of football. I can't really remember as joyous. What was it that Eamon Dunphy said about Garth Crooks and Sven-Goran Eriksson? It's the first time that the BBC has had two men having sex on television together. It's the first time that we've done it on our YouTube channel as well.
I think that's just about time, really. He has been chasing him for quite some time. He came here with one aim and one aim only. You had one job, Nathan, and to be fair to you, you did it.
Yeah, the whole point about Moby Dick is you don't get to kill the white whale in the end, but in this case, I'll stop there. But you know what I mean?
The white whale has been landed with a harpoon. Yeah. Thrown from the hip of Nathan Murphy. But what a day to just be a friend of the pod, I'd say yesterday. What a day to be a member of Golf Weekly. I would say for you people it was quite a satisfying moment to see this story come full circle. Yeah.
Oh, nice coat. You just grow up well. Is this because you're in the poshest place in Ireland, you've decided you're gonna?
Pretty much. You got to put on your Sunday best, even though it's whatever day of the week it is, and you got to spruce yourself up to look the best you possibly can in this company.
You've even brushed your hair. We're doing this 5.5 years, and that's never happened.
No, I actually didn't brush my hair. I guess it's just the lovely Adare wind that just blows elegantly through the strands of your hair, I guess.
And so, unfortunately, the weather's not good today. It was grand yesterday. It seemed fine, good.
Yeah, it's a little bit damp this morning, a little bit of drizzle. Seamus Power has just teed off on the first tee right in front of me. This is the 18th green right behind me. As you can see, the hotel is over my right shoulder. It should clear up as the day goes on. Yesterday was pretty nice. I got sunburnt today. Looks like it's not going to be that sort of day, but it might brighten up a little bit later when Tiger is back on the course. He's out in the afternoon once again today, because I presume for the television audience that'll be waiting for him in the United States of America. Maybe he wants a lie-in, and maybe everybody's just like, you get your lie-in 2 days in a row, because everybody here is to see Tiger Woods. I got down here yesterday after AM, drove down, and as soon as I parked up, I saw a massive crowd on the driving range. I didn't even need to go over and see who was warming up over there, and he comes through to the putting green in his buggy, which Gavin Cooney, the 42, described as a pulp mobile, which was quite apt, I thought. Everybody just kind of following him as he came through, just hoping to get just a little glimpse. Just a little glimpse is all anybody wanted of the man himself. Not even to touch the man, just to see him. I would probably include myself in that. And that first tee was pretty special yesterday, to be fair. Just this huge congregation of people. You had John Kiely on the first tee, and as the day moved on, you had Limerick hurlers walking the course with Tiger, because play was slow. People were happy to stop and talk with the gallery, with the patrons, whatever you want to call them, and that subsequently held the whole thing up. But I don't think that was something that anybody was overly worried about yesterday, because the Limerick hurlers and a few other people got to spend time with Tiger, and he was more than happy to just chat and shoot the breeze.
So that's Tiger. You were obviously, you had footage on your own Twitter account of him teeing off at the first from very close. Did you walk around behind him as well on the course?
I didn't, because I hung around on the putting green after the first tee, because I knew that there was going to be people coming off the course to actually chat, the likes of Alan Hansen and Martin O'Neill, who we'll bring to you in a little while, and Kiely as well. So that's kind of where you'd get them. You kind of go full Martin Brundle mode on the grid when you're up around that putting green. It's like, there's somebody famous. Is that Megan Thee Stallion? Is that Patrick Mahomes? I better go and actually have a word with that person. But no, it's Martin O'Neill, which is a far more glamorous outcome than Megan Thee Stallion. So that's kind of how you go around the putting green here, and that's what I was doing instead of following Tiger all day. But today might be that day where I get to follow him for the afternoon.
Martin, sometimes people mistake you for Mick McCarthy.
Did not say that.
Or
That
Trap
would have been a
Tony.
good opener. That would have been a really good opener, actually. Don't know why I didn't use that.
So what other celebrities were you rubbing shoulders with, and who else was there? And because I saw Keith Wood, there was a TikTok yesterday. He was giddy, and I can't wait to get him back on the show this week to go, you were pretty giddy. He was like, woo. So it's okay. We saw Nathan lose his cool with Jordan Spieth. Were you losing your cool with anybody in particular?
I mean, I think I think everybody loses their cool when Tiger comes through. I didn't really know what to do when he came through. I was like, let's just follow this crowd here. His buggy did break down before it got to the first tee, which was quite something yesterday. I believe it was because the buggy wasn't kind of straight in an area it wasn't supposed to go.
Right.
So yeah, like it is quite unusual. I'm not sure, is it unusual, but it does seem that the golfers themselves are quite unprotected when they're walking around this place, certainly when they're going in to return their card, that there is good access to them if you want to get an autograph, get a picture, that you just see Morikawa and Rahm and Schauffele and Justin Thomas all just kind of casually wandering into the clubhouse in Limerick. It is kind of surreal, to be quite honest, that it is just that quality of field and just the player after player after player, like 9 of the world's top 10 just hanging around here for the week. A
long time ago at the Pro-Am, the Irish Open Pro-Am, you used to be able to practice in the same bays as professionals, and I remember like practicing and Harrington was one bay over and McIlroy was one bay over, but the true moment of like being genuinely starstruck was when Andrei Shevchenko rocked up. He's there as well, playing off 0, it turns out.
Yeah, I haven't seen him around yet. He was playing yesterday morning, so I would have missed him, but he is around here somewhere. I must try and get a word with him if I can find him throughout the day. The list of celebs here is pretty impressive. I mean, for certain people, they would probably be mostly impressed by Team Westlife, which is Luke Donald with Cian Egan, Shane Filan and Nicky Byrne. Not doing too badly, actually, turns out. It is interesting when you kind of try and kind of gauge the mood around some of these players here this week. So what you had yesterday at the very end of the day was close to the end of the day, was Tiger teeing off in the first, then Leona Maguire teeing off after him with her group, and then Rory teeing off after her. And Tiger got a massive roar, but like the roar didn't necessarily diminish when Leona Maguire stood on the first tee. And I guess, I don't think I'm in the minority here. Just the opportunities to have seen Leona Maguire play in the flesh and to see what sort of reception she gets at home, they've been few and far between, especially post her Solheim Cup success. And it's kind of like, I don't know, like listening to the reception when Cian Lynch is warming up in Croke Park at the weekend, or when Rachel Blackmore is riding in front of a full Punchestown. You don't actually quite appreciate it until you have that sort of home crowd and the massive roar from the people here to realise what level that person's profile has got to. She is the only female golfer in the field in terms of the professionals here this week, and she got a hell of a reception on the first tee. I don't think she was overly happy with how she played yesterday, but I don't think we also appreciate just how high her star has risen over the last little while.
Totally. Like, you know how obsessive about golf the people in OTB are about their golf. They created a whole podcast about it. Well, it turns out like anybody who's into their golf is that into it, and if you're that into it, then you recognise that she is a global superstar in the making, and she is our next Rory McIlroy. That's where we're going with this. It's she's at that level, and they really appreciate that too. So stay with us on OTB AM, brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Here's what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock. We're obviously live from Adare for the next while. Derek McNamara, rugby analyst, is going to join us at 7:50 to talk to us about what happened against the All Blacks. David Herity is going to join us at 8:10 to try and put some context on Brian Cody bringing Kilkenny back to another All-Ireland final against Limerick. Sports pages at 8:30. Jenny Claffey is going to talk tennis to us at 8:50. Chris Medland is going to talk Formula 1 to us at 9:10. And we have more from Adare at 9:30 this morning. If you've missed the bit where Nathan finally caught up with Jordan Spieth, and it's on all of our social channels. But here's a taste of Owen's content bonanza from yesterday at Adare Manor as he spoke with Martin O'Neill, Alan Hansen and John Kiely. We're back after these, as I said, with rugby statistician Derek McNamara breaking down Ireland's first test defeat to New Zealand.
First of all, your own game today, how did you get on?
Started off poorly and improved, which was good. But I don't play the game anyway. But we were playing, our professional was Mark O'Meara, and two-time major champion, so that can't be too bad.
Do you get nervous playing in front of a professional, ex-professional?
I think that if you don't play the game, I think that's really the concern. And I think that people coming down probably expect you to be able to hit the ball like a professional. But it was great. It was a lovely day.
You're back out again tomorrow?
I'm back out again tomorrow, and we've got our professional is Rory McIlroy.
Very good, right, okay, so no pressure on that one.
No, none at all.
Can I just ask, Martin, do you get to watch much of the Republic of Ireland football team at the moment?
I see plenty of them, and I think it's might have been about the. I might have missed the last game, or maybe this was the second last game. But generally speaking, I watch them. So yeah.
What do you make of them at the moment?
Well, I think that what you want to try and do with the side, obviously, is try and improve. It is important, of course, that let me put it this way: Steve wants to run. He wants to play. He wants to do his own particular thing. Let's get some time and see how it goes.
Patience is required, almost.
I think that's right.
Are you planning to go back into management yourself anytime soon?
I'll have a think about it. Genuinely have a think about it, but we'll see.
Focus on the golf game for now.
No, I don't. As I said to you, I don't play golf. I haven't played in ages. But I got an invitation to come here through Dermot Desmond, owner of Celtic. He and I had a really good time together at Celtic. So when he asks, I don't think you refuse.
No. So how did that go for you out there today?
It was incredible. We had a great day. The weather was good. The course is absolutely magnificent, and there's no margin for error whatsoever. Tyrrell played great, and he finished, I think, 400 or 500, but the team finished 12 under. So we've all in all, it's been a really, really good day.
Who played the best out of your group? I see John Terry there walking over your shoulder as well.
John Terry finished birdie, which was absolutely terrific. Yeah, I mean, we all contributed at some stage. I probably played the worst of the three amateurs, but no, we still had a good crack, and it was a really good day. But I think the course is the winner. This is a course that is immaculate, terrific to play, most enjoyable to play, but it's really hard. I mean, as I say, the runoffs are brutal, and if the margins for error are really fine, but I don't think you'll get a course in the world that's in better condition than this.
Ryder Cup won't look out of place here.
Oh, well, they've got some great pin positions that they all the very best, even for the best players in the world. I mean, they've got some pin positions there that will test anybody. So it's it'll be magnificent and the crowd has been great. The Irish people are always just unbelievable. I mean, they are great, and to get the numbers in here that we've had today. And they're all so friendly, and we had a bit of banter between sort of Chelsea and Liverpool, and it was great. It was just great to see them all and cheering and having a great time, because that's what it's all about, really. That's
what you want. I must ask, when you saw the Mo Salah news last week, how did you feel?
Yeah, no, it's great for Liverpool, because the loss of Mane is big for them, and if the two of them had gone, they'd have to change the game completely, because the pressing game is Salah and Mane were probably the best I've ever seen at pressing. But it's good that Salah signed, because if Liverpool are going to keep on top, they've got to keep the best players.
Do you still keep as close an eye on the game now as you did when you were a Match of the Day pundit?
No. I retired 8 years ago, so I wouldn't know half the players that are playing. Ask Kenny. Kenny knows every single one of them. He knows their date of birth and where they played before, and he is remarkable, Kenneth. But no, I go to watch Liverpool, and I still enjoy watching Liverpool, but I don't go that much.
Just one last question. I was just going to say that you've really kept your word when you said you were going to step away from punditry. I'm sure your phone is hopping every so often to try
No, I obviously get asked back a lot of the time, but I've just made it clear that I really don't want to. I mean, I had a great time. I had 22 years as a pundit. I had 18 as a professional footballer. I had the best time in the world. Now I've got 6 grandchildren, so they're the.
Who's your favourite pundit now?
Oh no, they're very good. You know, they're all very good. It's not easy now because of what you can't say and you can't say. I mean, so, but it's a hard job, so they all do well.
We are here at Adare Manor with Limerick hurling boss John Kiely. John, has the heart calmed down a little bit after yesterday yet?
Just about now. Yeah, listen, we got a good night's sleep last night, and we're resting today, I suppose, and we'll get back on the horse tomorrow evening at training again.
Who have you been watching so far here today?
I've been very, very lucky actually, as I got down onto the practice driving range and got to meet a couple of the players down there, Dustin Johnson and just one or two more. And listen, I'm actually quite an avid golf watcher. I like to watch a lot of golf. I'm not a good golfer to play it, but I enjoy watching it. And so, yeah, this is a real treat to be able to just see these guys in the flesh and, listen, to have an event like this in Limerick is super as well. And for 100 charities to benefit from it, what better way to, get out for a day and enjoy it and support this fantastic event.
You were down at the first tee box for Tiger as well, I think, were you?
I was, yeah. I was lucky enough to get down there for 10 minutes and, listen, he's one of the all-time greats, and just to see him teeing off here in Adare is just a fantastic sight after his accident last year, for him to be still able to play, I think is just wonderful, one of the greatest of all time. So, yeah, really pleased to see him back able to compete again.
I'm sure you're getting bugged by everybody left, right and centre today, better than it being the other way around on the back of a defeat, I presume.
Yeah, well, listen, it was a really tough game yesterday and it could have gone either way. We're fortunate we got the scores just at the vital times, but, we've a real battle in our hands now for 2 weeks' time, but we'll work hard for the next 2 weeks and we'll get there.
Good luck with those 2 weeks, Sean. Thanks a million.
Not at all, thank you.
That's John Kiely, very happy in the aftermath of that. Alan Hansen happy to be there for the first minute, but the second minute was clearly like, I'm standing up and you're small and I'm walking away. So that was the fastest he's moved in 20 years, it turns out. 7:46, if you want to get involved, we'd love to hear from you. The hashtag is OTB AM. You can leave a comment in the YouTube stream, or of course you can tweet us at Off The Ball AM, and we're brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Now tune in to Off The Ball every night this week, where thanks to Sport Ireland Campus, we've daily prizes of €200 vouchers that can be used towards membership at their elite gym facility and pitch rentals for your team, kids sports academies and camps, or a family visit to Aquazone Water Park. Plus, it's an amazing overall prize of a €1,000 voucher, a money can't buy behind the scenes tour, and a sports team fitness testing session by an experienced strength and conditioning coach. So a raft of great prizes available if you just tune into Off The Ball every day this week. It's all thanks to Sport Ireland Campus. It's all thanks to Sport Ireland Campus, the home of Irish sport, from beginners to high performance and everyone in between. Here we go. Now, welcome, Derek McNamara. How are you?
Yeah, very good. How are you?
So you were with us last talking about La Rochelle and Ireland, and so you've been crunching the numbers on New Zealand 42, Ireland 19. Was it that different? Was there any similarities? Is there a trend developing in Irish rugby that there's one way?
Teams losing.
Well, can we get one of these after we win? That would be good.
That's probably a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think, look, it's hard. It's the games that they've played the last little while have all been top games. It's New Zealand in New Zealand, so it's we're gonna get one soon, I think.
Is your data predictive?
Yeah, of course.
Did you expect what you saw at the weekend, or did you think something different was going to happen?
So international sport is always harder because it's kind of much more unpredictable, because you don't really have the information behind it, because when's the last time New Zealand played,
and also the team selection can vary.
But it's, I think tradition and history is probably something you go off when you think of something like this. And first All Blacks game in New Zealand in 2.5 years or something in front of crowds, so it was always going to be a difficult game, but when you break it down, like we're going to probably look at 3 items, if that's okay. So we'll look at the kind of speed onto the ball, which is something that we're kind of looking at as a metric to see if we can measure the Irish team coming onto the ball.
So we put a graphic up here. So for our radio listeners and the podcast listeners, what does the graphic say?
The graphic basically, we're looking at the top line shows the speed onto the ball from Ireland, basically in the first half, and then the second half, the line. And then the bottom one shows the number of activities that are happening in this game. So you can see, like, right in the middle of the first half, we hit our peak where we're coming onto the ball. So every time the player comes onto the ball, we give them a score, and then we aggregate that score to show basically. And you can see at the end of the first half, there's a significant drop off in the speed onto the ball, and that's because there's a bit of what would you say, worry in the camp. There's probably a bit, what do we do now?
We've just conceded 28 points in the spin.
Yeah. But then if we look at New Zealand, then we have a similar graph, but for New Zealand, and you'll see that.
We're just going to cycle on to the next one there.
Yeah.
No, we don't have. We don't have to. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, but so there it is. So you can see New Zealand. They basically didn't have the ball at all until Sexton got, right in the middle of the first half, but when they did get the ball at the end of the first half, they were able to turn on the Jets, and that's just something I think Ronan O'Gara mentioned last week about putting them under under pressure and cutting out that space, and that's exactly what we need to do in the next game if we're going to stop it. So we need to continue to slow down New Zealand getting the ball, and that's trusting your defensive lines, because Sexton would be considered a really good attacking player, but he also commands the team in defence as well. So when somebody like him comes off, we need to be able to have a much better plan in place to continue doing what we were doing at the start of the first half.
Okay, so our reliance on Sexton is actually not simply an attacking reliance, it's also a defensive reliance.
Well, every player on the pitch is, but yeah, big time. Yeah, especially somebody who's so vocal. You can hear him on the pitch talking to people, making sure everybody knows where everybody is supposed to go. So it's something that's probably not even thought about. But you got Carberry coming in, who's somebody who's probably not nearly as vocal in his approach, and probably takes him a little bit of time. He wasn't expecting to come on that early, and there he is in front of New Zealand, in front of his home crowd. I think and it was a difficult game, really, really difficult game, because losing your best player basically. Like we were 5-7 up, and then you find yourself 21 points down after 4 minutes. So it's but like, look, it's the first test. There are huge learnings. Like Ireland actually played really, really well, I thought. Really, really well. There were very few mental errors. A couple of players gave away a few too many penalties. So that's becoming a recurring thing for Irish teams. One or two players.
Specific individuals,
yeah.
Who is it?
Well, Porter would be the guy that I'd be looking at
at scrum time or outside of scrum?
All over,
okay.
Especially at the breakdown. Okay. He could have got pinged once or twice. So it's funny when you hear people talking about the referees after the game, but it's there was no more or fewer issues in this game than there is in any other game.
Okay, that's interesting, because I think, because rugby is so chaotic, and if you remember the thing about the Razzie video was that it leaked, right? And so they're all doing these videos. We know they've been doing these videos for years, because Joe Schmidt used to tell us that he was doing them at the time, and if you're not doing them, that's fine. But that, the notion that leaked accidentally, whatever, you have to take Razzie at his word for that, and he's having a great time drinking his beers and on more videos. Yeah. But I think the point was that most people would make the case that a lot of what he was saying, apart from the respect for the captain, but a lot of the legal stuff that he's saying is correct, because literally in a rugby match there are thousands and thousands of incidents where every single individual at one point can be in the wrong position and can be illegal. So you can stop the video at any point and go, he's illegal, this is illegal. What do? Do you stop every single incident and the game becomes a 4.5 hour game?
Yeah.
Or do you just make an accommodation that there's going to be an ebb and flow in this, and you hope that you come out the right side of it?
Well, I think there are, if you were just to take this game and it's totality, this game was the most amount of activities in the entire game that I've done. So it was by far the highest tempo of a game. So usually you'd have around 2,000 players interactions in the game, carries, passes, kicks, things like that. But in this game there was 3,000. So when you've got the coach, the refereeing staff have to be on their game, the players have to be on their game, everybody, it's really, really important. So when Rasmussen gets pissed off about something, he vents like that and he makes this video, but there is no, I don't know that game. I wasn't analysing using the way we analyse it, but we look at referee instances. So you're usually around the breakdown, they're resulting in foul play that they may have missed. But compared to any of the other games, there's no difference. Okay, no difference.
The 3,000 activities versus 2,000 activities. What's behind that? Is that the ball in play? Is it the styles of both teams?
Yeah. Two teams want them to play but it's really, really hard. The likes of Ireland. So you could see back in October or November when Ireland played New Zealand, the jadedness of the New Zealand team. They were tired. And it's same with Ireland now this time around, where they've been playing all season long, and it's not necessarily that they've played too much. I actually think it's probably because they've had a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks and they haven't been playing. That's why they're like this. They were a little bit lethargic, you would think, but when you look at the actual tempo of the game and the number of activities and the bodies putting on their line, amazing game, really, really amazing game. It's just a pity that they they drop their heads for maybe 10 minutes maximum.
Okay, so they're not actually manifesting the signs of fatigue, are they? They're not showing those signs of fatigue.
No, you can't play a game plan where you have 1,600 activities in a game and be good at it. You know, like they it's just about that those 10 minutes that you're playing against the team that can score from everywhere. And that's kind of like the second point that I was just about to mention about Sexton and his HIA, you know. There needs to be more done, because like if the teams are honest about this, it's not like, obviously you've got the health and the welfare of the players, but you got the health and welfare of the people that are sitting at home watching it, and all these different things. We will give a tick box if we see a possible head trauma. So anytime there's somebody's head knocked back or you see somebody getting up off the ground, we'll capture it. We don't know if it'll make any difference or not, but it's something we'll be able to bring to World Rugby and say, hey, this is something we've noticed. We can actually see this player's performance drop because of these 3 instances over a season that nobody else is really looking at. But it's also the impact that those players are having. So it's like Sexton, you got the hit at 28 minutes and 35 seconds. He was down for 18 seconds. He then got up, got the ball, 29 minutes. He then misses a loop pass from Keenan. The ball goes to the ground. Then he gets the pass again, and he gives a bad pass to Ringrose, who spills the ball, who that results in a try 80 metres the opposite direction. So after he gets hit, he makes 3 or 4 small errors, and then I think it was Heffernan as well. He got a knock. They came on, assessed him on the pitch, led him to play on, and then he knocks the ball on like 30 seconds later, and then they take him off. So this whole idea of player welfare, you gotta be honest with it. You can't just, we're down to 35 players in the squad, we'll just leave them on.
I don't think it's that they're leaving them on because they're down to 35 players. I think it's that they're not quite sure of the impact. I think it's not from a position of dishonesty. I would argue that it's actually like it's a learning situation that they're going through, and that's why stuff like this information is really interesting. That like if you have had any kind of significant injury, and I would say it's not just a head injury, that like if you've had some kind of judder or shudder, or you've banged your shoulder and you stay on to try and gut it out for the team, more than likely you're going to cost your team, and it's actually going to end up being the players who identify.
But that you can't drive that. You can't drive that from a player perspective. You have to drive that from 100% youth development all the way up.
True, and I get that. And I look, that's we could actually do an hour-long thing about what the share of the pie is. The culture of the self-identifying player going, actually, I am lesser now than I should be, and so if somebody runs past me,
it's definitely better though.
I'm not going to 100%.
Yeah.
But equally, like maybe the argument in the first Maori game was that they didn't see the Jeremy Lukman incident until half time, and then they saw it and they were like, oh, we didn't see that because we didn't see it. So yeah, as you said, there's 3,000 different activities going on. I don't know what the correct answer is. Maybe some kind of AI with like 40 cameras, one on each player, and every time there's a vibration that goes off to one of the coaches and goes, okay, I need to check that video on 15, okay, he's got to go, whatever that is. So I think it's really interesting. We actually just have a minute-long video here. This is my cat. So Johnny Sexton's passed his HIAs. Here's that news that broke overnight.
Actually, Johnny's fit. Johnny's passed every test that he needs to pass, so from my point of view, he's good to go.
Sure. He's going to be training.
He's good to go. He's good to go for Saturday.
How much of a relief is that for the team?
I think he's a massive cog in there, but I think Joey came on and did well. We got back up, and again, this is what touring's all about: is our ability to adapt to what gets thrown at us, and I think we've done that pretty well. So let's hope it continues.
You mentioned touring. You've played a lot against New Zealand. Been to New Zealand a number of times. What's the biggest eye-opener or biggest challenge for some of these younger guys that have been here for now a couple of weeks?
Well, they haven't toured before. a lot of them haven't toured, so it is very different. They're away from home. It's just relentless, especially with the midweek games as well. Backing up, becoming tough, becoming resilient. And I think being able to pick yourself up every single training session is important, because you don't have time. We don't have time to feel sorry for ourselves or muck about. So from our point of view, it's being on it every single time, and that's being about professional.
Right, that's my cat making the news. public overnight that Johnny Sexton will be available for selection this weekend, and you've pinpointed the difference having Sexton and not having Sexton makes to the defensive structure of the team. So that would actually make you relatively confident this game will be closer next weekend, or certainly Ireland have a chance of making it closer next weekend?
If I'm totally honest, as soon as I heard that, I actually felt a bit sad, like, for John Sexton. Like, I understand he still wants to play and he wants to play every single game, but should he be? There's a big difference between, him wanting to play and should he play. But, like, anyway, if he's playing, he obviously it gives us a better chance. But if you look back through the games that he's played over the last 6 months, he had a good stint there for a little while, where he played a number of games in a row. But before that, can you honestly see where he played 3 games without getting injured?
I mean, this is the big question about whether or not we should be actually just picking Carberry at the weekend.
Doesn't make any sense.
And especially for the World Cup coming up. The trouble is, right, I don't remember a long period of time where Joey Carberry has played a bunch of games in a row.
Played really well.
Either. But how many games has he played where, he also has had injury issues?
Yeah.
We need 4 out halves as opposed to having 1 and a bit out halves, which is what we have at the moment. So let's assume Sexton starts, right? Because that is what's going to happen. What should we be looking out for in the next game from the rest of the team as well?
Yeah, there's some really interesting things in the game. One is actually just around the breakdown, kind of close to the breakdown. Ireland had a lot of success, early on, running onto the ball, pick and driving, going off first receiver rather than out the back, and that was really they made a lot of good ground, very close to the breakdown.
Who's making those carries? Is that Van der Fleer, Henshaw, that kind of?
Yeah. There's a good few. Like quite a lot. Even number 6 are
Peter Manny.
Peter Manny, yeah, as well. But one thing that I noticed, there was the New Zealand players were kind of completing tackles, so tackling players without the ball. So as soon as you make the pass, the New Zealand players would commit to the tackle and make the tackle, even though, so there was like 17 of these tackles. Like Ireland, we had 7 of the same instances, but it's just something to be aware of, because that can be a negative and a positive thing. If you're able to then get those players to bite, it means that there's gaps either side of them.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just something to be aware of, that if you see that reoccurring where the New Zealand players are making those tackles after the pass, they're usually, I didn't check, but most of them are from forwards. So I'd be looking at that as a way to just as something to keep an eye on. I'd actually really like to see Doris come in for, or Conan come in for Doris. Doris hasn't really seen the heights that he's seen a couple of years ago, and I'd like to see him come in. And then also just the other thing about, like, New Zealand's goal line defence was immense, like absolutely amazing. 4 times holding the ball up over the try line, or call try attempt. You may not see one of them in 3 weeks of rugby. So if Ireland can get themselves into the same situations, if they can cut the speed down, cut the defensive lines down, trying to implement a game plan similar to what they did in 2018 when they beat them, where they much more speed up and stop, rather than slow up from a defensive perspective. So you're kind of cutting out the space rather than protecting the individuals.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I'd be trying to. That's what I'm going to be keeping an eye at.
Okay, so none of that seems like it's undoable. So I guess we had a debate yesterday, myself and Owen, about glass half full, glass half empty. Owen's is half full, mine's half empty.
I heard.
Yeah, I just, and it did feel like it felt like there were some fundamental issues, but maybe there aren't. Maybe this is it's basics that if you cut down on, all of a sudden it's a bit like the Kilkenny hurlers, you just up the work rate to a point where the opposition can't live with you. And after that, the game looks relatively easy, but it's actually not. The hard part is getting the work rate to the level where you're enforcing your game on the opposition.
Exactly. But the problem is you're playing against 15 guys that are made of stone. So when they're running into you over a certain period of time, that becomes harder to do when you've got significant injuries in your squad and your depth isn't as big. So putting the bodies on the line as much this week, it may not be possible. So they may have to try and implement a different game plan. I would imagine they might try and actually slow the game down. So you'll see them, well, potentially see them slowing especially at the breakdown. So in this game, for instance, you had both teams, as soon as the ball went out for line out, for instance, they were set, the ball was in as quickly as possible. So the ball was in play for a lot longer. I don't actually have that information here. But this time round, I'd prefer to see Ireland play a little bit like they did against Australia back in 2018, where they had like 700 activities in the game, so half of the amount of work rate that they had. But they were able to, you could hear the commentators in that game giving out about it. But that's how you can play a different game plan. And Ireland were top of their game 2018. They were able to play that really high tempo game, and then when they wanted to, they were able to slow things down and frustrate teams and keep possession or territory rather than possession.
Okay. Owen, you wanted to come in here?
Derek, I was just going to ask, is it possible to sort of mix and match that sort of slow versus fast game plan from game to game? Like, can they go into a World Cup and say, if it is South Africa, if it is France, we can have a game plan A or a game plan B? Or does the information suggest that actually they need to pick their plan and stick with it and have it figured out before the World Cup actually kicks off?
No. I think really good teams can do that. Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's the reason why the likes of England, I think, are going to really struggle, because you can't just bring everything. You can't just hide what you do. England would be saying, "Oh, we're going to peak for the World Cup," but if they haven't learned any lessons or gotten better at certain types of game plans, then you can't implement those game plans on a whim. So Ireland, I'd be, play as hard as you can, play as many players as you possibly can, and try and learn what players can play certain game plans.
And could it be a case where potentially a quicker style of play suits Leinster more than it would suit Ireland, and the predominantly Leinster-based Ireland team would actually be going between different styles of play from international rugby to provincial rugby? Well,
you got to play what the players you have first. Yeah, so understand what type of players you have, then your injuries, and then you got to think about what the weather conditions are like. So this weekend in New Zealand, it's going to be indoors, so it's going to be fast, it's going to be quick. So I would expect Ireland, they won't go for the slow game plan. What they'll try and do is they'll try and implement a game plan like they did against New Zealand in October or November here, and they'll play really, really wide, really, really quickly. And if they can do that, and they can keep in New Zealand's half, and cut their space down and be aggressive and do all those things and not make mistakes, not give away penalties, the simple things, then they got a chance. But I don't know, you're still playing against a New Zealand team that are incredibly excited to be playing at home again.
Yeah, and in front of an audience for the first time in a couple of years, and also with a bit of revenge in their nostrils, and selection for the World Cup and a coaching ticket under pressure. So, it's all kind of it was perfectly delicately poised until they hammered us last weekend.
Yes. The line out we need to sort out as well. That's the one thing I forgot to say. Yeah, big time.
How easy is that?
Well, they're not competing at the front of the line out at all. So if you wanted to, they're just jumping on 4 and 6. So they're really, really good in that middle to back part of the line out, because they're able to scope out, they're able to see what Ireland are doing and then just throw the player up. But if they're not competing at 2, just go on 2 all day. That's
secure the possession and try and work from there. And
you can still go off the top from 2, you can maul from 2, you can do everything. There's no real difference at this level between a passer passing the ball.
So obviously New Zealand know that, right? New Zealand know that they didn't last week compete at the front. This week they could do something completely different, right?
Absolutely.
This is the double bluff that happens.
But I think that's something that's kind of we need to bring into the game more, which is reactional, situational. So you'll see the line out, the players in line out, they'll make a call, they go to the line out, and they'll fulfill that line out nearly all the time,
as opposed to being able to audible,
going in and audible it and go, okay, look, there's nobody, there's got 2 props at the front of the line out.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's something that we need to start seeing more.
That's the type of thing that you hope evolves over the course of a tour like this, where they, at the end of the tour, they go, we didn't do that, we need to introduce this. Or ideally, this week, they're sitting at that going, okay, when that happens, when you see what you see, play the picture in front of you, as opposed to...
Yeah. I think like the schools teams do this. You know, it's not that, but it's at this level because you need everybody to be able to know what to do at the same time to be able to put those connections
it also has
together.
To be perfect because if there's a mistake, save it Reese's under the posts.
And
that's the high wire act.
If you design a line out to work off that first read, second read, third read, like they do in the NFL, for instance, then you know what to do if something else happens. You know what I mean? But we're a little bit away from that, but it's changing. It's changing.
Okay. All right. So all in all, you're actually happier about Ireland's performance than, say, for example, I was yesterday.
Yeah. Stop being such a grouch.
There you go. Okay. Well, you know, 42 points. It's it had the bang of the World Cup off it. The saying, like, so if we hadn't made the mistakes that we made, the game would have been closer.
If my auntie had,
there you go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, but we always come. I remember the game where Keith Wood was playing and we were 14-7 up and. Ashton was the manager and they annihilated us in the second half. It was 40 something in the teens. Like it was a stereotypical, like we've seen this movie before. We play really well for a little while. New Zealand look at what we're doing and then feast off our mistakes. But we continue to make the mistakes.
But see, the mistakes are magnified by New Zealand.
Yeah. So you've got to be perfect.
Yeah, but these guys have landed 10 days ago. They're still jet lagged. They're still, but like this could happen again even more. You know, we could get beaten by 50 points this weekend and still play well. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily about winning in these. Like I would much prefer to see us putting in start. Like I don't think Sexton should start. I think Carberry should start. I think if we're not going to be able to get 80 minutes out of Sexton, then we bring him when we're getting, like I think we mentioned before about Leinster being like falling off the cliff kind of in the second half from a quality perspective.
Maybe bring Sexton off the bench.
Maybe you bring him in while that's happening to give everybody around him that sense of focus. And that's, you know, like it's like Jim Gavin. You know, he brought on his best team midway through the second half. You know, and they weren't necessarily the best players right now, but they were leaders and they were, you know, they made the right decision. Yeah. So maybe that's the evolution of what we try and do. But
okay, so your point is the process is more important here than the outcome, because the outcome is only important at the World Cup.
Yeah. Well,
is that fair?
Yeah, like these games they mean nothing. They really don't mean anything. You know, the Six Nations means something because you can win it. We should be, I suppose, if we're thinking about this, we probably don't want to poke the bear before the World Cup next year. So, like, you know, if we're going to play them in the World Cup,
New Zealand is what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle.
Exactly.
In the first few rounds, we're just like
toying with them.
Yeah. All right, Derek, good stuff. 13 minutes past 8, OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We're delighted to announce that Braeburn Coffee is now the official coffee partner here of OTB. Every week, we're giving one lucky viewer a €100 voucher to spend on some Braeburn coffee goodness at an Apple Green store near you. To enter, check out @OffTheBall on Twitter. Just like and retweet our Braeburn competition post and you'll be in the draw. Braeburn Coffee is Apple Green's new premium coffee brand that offers customers the best coffee experience on the road. It's available now at 30 locations nationwide. After the break, we're live with the Kildare Hurling manager, former Kilkenny goalkeeper, David Herity. Stay tuned.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
It's a moment of Ireland's tour of New Zealand.
But I do think that James Ryan has to look at like the Martin Johnson said, that's the player I want to be this series.
Like the options cannot be just to keep the oldest players there till you get to the World Cup. It has to be about unearthing new guys, younger guys, giving them the exposure at international level to try and get the best out of them.
Subscribe to the rugby stream on the OTB Sports app now.
Things that put people off on a first date. Showing up late and getting your name wrong? Always a great start. Looking at their phone more than you? Hello? Someone who only talks about themselves. Oh, really? God, aren't you great? Look, no one said dating is perfect, but at GoDating.ie, we promise we'll always try and find your perfect match. Because somewhere out there, there's someone for you. And GoDating.ie will help you find them. Yes, even you, socks and sandals guy. Go on, go for it with GoDating.ie.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Right, it's 15 minutes past 8. Owen, you're still there?
I am indeed. How are things?
Yeah. Any hobnobbing that you've been doing in the last 5 minutes?
No, not really. Just tried to get inside to my kind of like Amsterdam-esque booth here to try and, seal myself off behind this curtain and chat to you there in studio.
What?
Your eyes are moving frantically as
like what?
if I've already.
What's the reference you're making there, Owen?
I don't know.
You're Roxanne, are you? Is that what it is?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. I'm glad somebody's finally put you in your place about the grouchiness of yesterday morning.
Well,
the Monday morning quarterback sort of view on life is never positive from your standpoint.
That's not true. I mean, I'm much more often the glass half full person around these parts. It just did feel like, well, I don't know. I mean, you were in Japan, I was in Japan. It just felt a little bit like, oh, here we go again. Big game where we've talked ourselves into a big game. We've picked our full team and we get spanked. And it's like, no, actually, you know what? There's lots to be positive about this. I'm just, fool me once, shame on me. Well, whatever. You ain't going to fool me again. That's basically, I feel a little bit George Bush here. That's it.
Yeah. I like the Sex and His Impact sub-shout. I think that's a possible avenue worth exploring over the next little while.
I mean, we've been making that shout for about 5 years. Turns out we need him on the pitch. 16 minutes past 8 this morning. Let's turn our attention back to hurling. I'm delighted to say David Herity is with us. David, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Great, and yourself, Ger? How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. The game at the weekend and the build-up, I hadn't a clue what was going to happen, and then 15 minutes in, you're like, whoa, we've seen this movie before. It turns out Kilkenny are right on it, Clare a little bit off it. What was your expectation heading into the game? Were you in any way surprised by how good Kilkenny were / how poor Clare were?
I was surprised how poor Clare was on Saturday. I think if Kilkenny had played the tactics that Clare played with that long ball, I think the pitchforks would have been out. I was very surprised with I knew kind of the 4 weeks coming into an All-Ireland semi-final like that, Brian and the management team, a lot of the players there, the older players that are still there, they'd be able to get that right. You're 4 weeks in, gives everyone a chance to get back into the team, into the 26. And there's a bit of a buzz if you're talking to any of the players. Everyone's excited about it because it's an All-Ireland semi-final, but then everyone's excited because they think they feel they have a chance. When you're in the round robin, even kind of when we were back in 2013 and you go through the back door, it's week on, week off. You get maybe 20 minutes, on a Tuesday night, but that's not really going to be the deciding factor whether you play or not. Brian's made up his mind. Whereas all of a sudden now you have 3 weeks, you have consecutive training sessions together, and you have a great chance. It gives a great buzz. So the fact that I just was very impressed with just the way Kilkenny kind of played. Even from puck outs there, the way that they worked the ball out, they weren't going the usual corner back straight down the line, where you probably only win 3 out of 10. They were playing it back inside. Hugh Lawler was getting unusual with the ball. Paddy Deegan, they just were spraying the ball around. They had Clare all over the place, and Clare couldn't match them in any capacity whatsoever. I felt Kilkenny, to win the game, they had to get 2 goals. I thought Clare would probably run up about 27 points myself, but in the end, they just, those 24 wides just killed them.
Yeah, maybe you have played on teams that have hit those wides, but the deflation that happens when that occurs, particularly in a big match like that, where the crowd are looking at it and you can hear the groans, and in a half full stadium like Croker, they kind of have a heightened impact as well. So once that starts to happen, it's very hard for a team to get back into it.
Yeah, I was going to look at the goalkeeper anyway and just see kind of how his reaction is. And I don't think I've ever seen Eoin Murphy as confident and as composed in the game. Even when the balls are going wide, he wasn't shouting at anyone to kind of give an out. And as sometimes the keepers do when so many shots are going off, he was just casually going over, getting the ball. He was taking about 10, maybe 12 seconds on each puck out and just relaxing with the whole thing. And it just kind of showed that they were under absolutely no pressure. He never felt under pressure at any stage in the game. Even the balls that were dropping in around the square, he never felt like he needed to do anything spectacular to try and get the ball back in play. I just thought he's always composed, but just in that game, it kind of, for me, I knew Clare weren't going to make any sort of a comeback, and I just saw how confident he was and how the play was going on.
What happens now in the build-up to the final? Like, it's obviously a shortened build-up to the final. It's 2 weeks. So whatever about the 4 weeks being perfect, is there still room for some people to force their way into the 26? Will training from a Kilkenny perspective still be as exciting as it was for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
No, I don't think it is, because 2 weeks, all of a sudden now, in the back of your head, you're kind of thinking, if I get one little knock here, like Conor Fogarty broke his thumb there a few weeks ago, he'll probably look to get back into that 26. But you're probably looking at, they might have had a training session on Monday or a decent recovery session. The media night is Wednesday night. They get their suits Monday night as well, which is always a brilliant training session. Then you get the given out to by Brian kind of to get focused back in again, because there is that giddy mode. But they'll probably get some way of probably 20 minutes on Thursday night, a decent training session on maybe Saturday or Sunday morning, and then that's it. But lads are nervous. You know, whoever didn't make the 15 is going hell for leather, but whoever's on that 15 is probably 12 of those lads that are guaranteed a start in the final. They're nervous enough because they just don't want to lose out in a place at this stage. But that's it. You're probably looking at, you know, the one thing Brian was always very good at is if there's a 70-minute game, obviously, when you break it down and cut out the wides, the frees, when you cut out all the stoppages, an inter-county match is anything between 35 and 40 minutes. That's the max that it is. So you're only looking at 17, maybe and a half minutes of a match either side. He'll probably look to have one of those just so that he can actually say to the players, look, we gave you one last chance. But I think he has his mind made up exactly who he wants. I thought it was fascinating who he brought on there the weekend as well. I expected possibly to see Richie Hogan make an entrance, but then I was thinking Kilkenny were too far ahead. He was probably saving that. Now, I don't know whether Richie will come on, but I think he might have. Killian Buckley didn't get any kind of a run there as well. I think there's still room for a few wild cards there from Brian in the final.
Does Brian Cuddy become a different person in the build-up to an All-Ireland final?
I think he's heightened. Yeah, he's looking around. I would have always kind of compared him to the tower in Lord of the Rings. That eye that's just watching over everything. He's not saying a whole lot, but it's just constantly trying to see, is there any bit of complacency going in anywhere around the field? He'll go around to the different players that he wants, anyone that he needs to give a slight bit of a kick to. I know kind of in 2014 I would have played the semi-final against Limerick. Before that, he would have come up to me in Carton House and said, you know, don't think for a second you're not going to be starting that semi-final. And then the semi-final, I suppose there were a few hairy moments, and he came up to me the very next training session, and we spoke about the few hairy moments, and then I kind of confidently said, look, I'll get him right for the final. And he went, oh no, wait a second now. There's two lads going for this position here now, so don't think you have this jersey yet. So straight away, that bit of complacency, he knocked it on the head. The very next training session, that was it. No, it's all up for grabs. I'm sure he gave that spiel on Monday night that absolutely anyone could start on the 15 and anyone get into 26, and even the 5 that could come on any given day or in the final now, that's completely up for grabs.
Pardon my ignorance, did you start the final?
I didn't start the final, no. He knew in his head. No, that was it.
Jesus, that's harsh.
Yeah, well, like, that's Brian for you. That's the way he is. I know, like in 11 and 12, I would have started both finals. We won both finals. And the very first training session for the 2013 season, he brought me into the medical room and along with Martin Fogarty, and just told me change happens. He told me McGarry thought he had longer, and PJ Ryan got in and change happens, and PJ thought he had more years, and you came in and change happens. So that was the very first training session. So I actually didn't cop on what he meant. Obviously, after a few league matches,
you were like, "Oh yeah, that's good. I'm looking forward to this change. What's my part in this?"
Because I remember going down and I was down in Langton's and I was mimicking him and exactly what he says. And to a few of the lads, and they weren't laughing, but I was laughing. But 2 months later, I suppose I wasn't. He knew himself. He knows. He's like, he knows that. Look, he gave me a chance. It just so happened I got injured before the final anyway, but I'm sure he is quite ruthless. He knows. I was interested there the last few weeks in the run-up to the Clare game. I asked him how the A versus B games are going on. Just a few of the lads you might see around the place. And they said that there's not too many A versus B games going on. And you know, when that's happening, then, well, there's either two things are happening. He's either trying to keep everyone on their toes, or else he knows the team coming into this match and he doesn't want the B team beating the A team, because then that throws everything up in the air. That has happened a few times down through the years. And then that kind of just the confidence goes completely in the A team then if you have a B team beating you. So I'd imagine he'll still keep it fairly mixed for the week ahead, and then try and just then he'll announce his team. But I'm pretty sure he has a team picked in his head already.
So did that Kilkenny 4-in-a-row team actually lose to the B Kilkenny team?
In 2013 and 2014. 13 when we weren't going well, but in 2014 when there was massive change, I know there was a B team one before we started that Leinster Championship. I was on it, Captain Lester Ryan was on it, Tommy Welch was on it, Taggy was on it, Henry was on it, Michael Rice was on it, Joey Holden would have been on it.
Good team.
That was the B team, and we bet them 2-7 to 9 points. And we were absolutely buzzing after it. The B team were absolutely buzzing. They started texting each other then after the match. Not that to be kind of, it was just kind of a real. Sometimes, when you're not in at all. But a victory like that in a B game like that, where you're kind of going when sometimes when you are to the side and you see players put to the side, when they start coming out and they win a game like that, it just gives them fierce adrenaline to kind of go, well, look, things aren't going wrong. Maybe it's not all me, it's not in your head. So they're great opportunities. But having said that, it was a pretty impressive B team, all right.
And when that happens, right, is there a meeting afterwards? Does the A team have to come out and talk publicly, or is it all quiet, knuckle down, and make sure that it doesn't happen again?
No one says anything like that, because no one ever says it's an A versus B team. But everyone knows it's an A versus B team. But he's not going to come out and go, how did the Bs beat the A? You just know that. How you know it's the A versus B team is he'll go with the team that's the A team, and then Martin Fogarty or whoever it is, Derek Ling, might go with the B team. And
That's a bit obvious, isn't it?
It is, but I suppose he'll argue that, look, I have to go with one of the teams, and that's it. And But you know exactly who's played well, who's probably played the league final that year, who might have played the first round. There might have been a bit of a gap there. But again, that panel, a bit like the panel there that's there with Kilkenny at the moment, it's extremely competitive. If you look at the 5 lads that came on the last day, but then I said Killian Buckley didn't come on. I think Conor Fogarty will be back the next day. Richie Hogan, I still think is there. He's apparently he was flying it in training until Mikey Butler was put on him one night, and then that kind of stopped. So you kind of had a feeling then that Mikey was going to be given that job for Tony Kelly there the weekend.
It'd be a hell of a story arc, wouldn't it, if Richie Hogan was to play a part in an All-Ireland final win for Kilkenny this year after what happened in 19?
It would, yeah. Similar enough to Brian's arc, I suppose, as well. That you kind of, I think there's a great quote there from The Dark Knight Rises from Harvey Dent, that you either die a hero or you stay around long enough to become the villain, or else if you stay even longer again, you become the hero again. So you could argue that which was, in Brian's kind of the way things have gone with Brian and the public and the Kilkenny public. Also Richie Hogan, I suppose he's been incredible. He was never a villain, but I suppose he fell out of sorts the last couple of years, but he seems to be buzzing. The injuries seem to be, under control at the moment, and it would be incredible that if he did come on, because I know he was disappointed in 2019 when he got the red card. I suppose that kept him on in 2020 then, and he had that wonder goal in the Leinster final. But he still feels himself. He has something else that he can offer his team, and it would be brilliant. I do think that if Kilkenny are under pressure, that he'll come on, and I do think they will be under pressure heading into the last 10 minutes.
I see a lot of people saying, it was all nonsense about Cody, all the people saying that his time was up and all those comparisons, that was all, he's proved them wrong. I mean, maybe he has proved them wrong, but actually what's happened is he has clearly listened to or watched what has gone on in the rest of the game and has completely changed. So this isn't the same Brian Cody as it always was, or certainly his team is not playing the same way. And even within this year, there's been periods where this wasn't working. The style of play and the evolution of the style of play wasn't working, but they've stuck with it as opposed to just raining balls in on TJ Reid, hoping that he's going to bail them out. And so it's not the same Cody, it's a slightly different Cody.
It is the way that they're playing at the moment. And again, a huge credit goes down to Conor Phelan as well, who's the trainer. But a huge amount of credit, even just to the backroom team. Again, I only found out there the last day, they have really changed up everything in the backroom team as well, between the opposition analysis as well, nutritionist who I hear is outstanding. You've Mickey Comfort there, who's over the S&C as well. A lot of things, I suppose Mikey Butler's after going from water boy to cornerback. They've changed up a massive amount in the backroom team as well, and he has really embraced the whole science side of things, which I never thought he would. Like, even back on performance analysis years ago, the twins we used to have, Louise and Emma Byrne, were there, and we come into a management meeting, and he'd click really quickly through all their presentation until he got onto hooks, blocks and tackles. And that was it. So they'd have hours of work and data and reams of it, and then he'd just go straight to the tackles page and just keep hitting that mouse key. So, now all of a sudden you have your kind of GPS, you've everything. I suppose he had to go with the times, but I just never thought he would. It's obviously been forced on him. But the way that they played there last Saturday, again, starting off from the pucks, like I mentioned, it wasn't just a simple ball to Hugh Lawler and then that's it. It's just driven left or right. It's given out to Tommy Welch. Tommy Welch is now cutting inside. He's not running down a dark alleyway down the line and then just driving it straight down Owen Cody's throat. He's coming back in field there. We can give the ball to Richie Reid. Like, if you look at the possessions from the likes of even Mikey Butler, who was man marking Tony Kelly, and Hugh Lawler, they had 26 between them, and you're out to Richie Reid, who had 24 possessions. These lads are, they're playing the ball in to a level there, to the clearance zone level there, between the 45 and 65, and then they're able to spray it across the field. They're obviously listening to how the game has to be played, the ball that has to go in, that type of ball that has to go in. Adrian Mullen, again, out in midfield, they're playing the ball through the lines, and then they're giving that low ball inside and giving the inside forwards. It's a brilliant opportunity. Having said that, again, they still have that. They have Wally Welch that's coming on there, catching the ball. TJ Reid, who's still phenomenal in the air. They still have these lads if they want to go route one, so they have a nice mix now at the moment.
Galway went route one several times, and obviously the goal comes off it at the start of the second half, but notwithstanding the fact that the goal gives such a surge of adrenaline to Galway and it gets them back level for the first time in 35 minutes, they kept playing the long ball in, and you'd say for the rest of the game actually Limerick dealt with it relatively well. There were still some opportunities and there were still some points come off it, so I would say Galway and Limerick broke even in the full back line with the long ball, and maybe the stats would prove that actually Limerick ended up winning that. Yes, if Kilkenny were to do that a couple of times and a couple of goals come off it, the importance, the electrifying aspect of that on the team and the crowd probably makes it worthwhile. So you think for the final we should see a mix of the ball going through the lines, as you said, and let those players who are playing really well run the game, but also play the lottery, buy a few tickets.
Yeah, no, they have to, and they need to hit route one ball. Like, obviously it is. It's all about trying to mix and match it. Like, if you think back in 2019, the Colin Fennelly goal came off an Owen Murphy long puck. It was one of the longest puckets I've ever seen in Croker. Bounced inside the 20, bounced just outside the 21, and Colin went in and took on the full back and buried it. Like, so they have to go route one. Kilkenny need goals to win this. They're not going to win a point shootout against Limerick. I don't think so. I think this is the one area where Limerick fall down. They've only got 6 goals this year. Kilkenny are up. They're 16 goals so far this year in between the Leinster and the All-Ireland series. So they can score goals. They're hungry for it. I think that's what has defined Kilkenny teams down through the years, is the fact that they're able to get goals. The other teams, opposition, I don't think Galway teams are as ruthless. I don't think Limerick certainly weren't. They won an All-Ireland a few years ago without scoring a goal. It doesn't seem to be the number one on their priority list. You see Ger Eoin created the only chance there last day in the corner. Jack Grealish saved it. So I think they'll still probably knock up about 27 points, but I think Kilkenny will need those 2 goals, and they'll need to go long at times inside to Owen Cody or Mossy Keown, who seems to, I know he mightn't be playing the best, but he's still managing to bang in about 5 goals in this year's championship. I think they need to go route one at different points then as well, and try and test out this the full back line.
The concern, I guess, then on that, David, is just that Limerick have shown last year that they have that ability to turn on the goals when it really matters. I don't think they'd scored 3 goals at any point during the championship last season until that final against Cork, that when the occasion is at its biggest, they just have this ability to blow a team away.
Yeah, I'd also just think that Owen Murphy's is in the form of his life. That full back line from Kilkenny is in the form of its life as well. And I just cannot, again, if you look at last year, it was a complete malfunction from Cork in the final, where they just didn't know who was marking who, and they were handing over players. Yeah, I can't see that level of running straight through like what happened there last year. Kyle Hayes just running straight through a Kilkenny defence. The brilliant thing about a Kilkenny defence is that if Kyle Hayes is running through, the full back instantly goes, the cornerback covers in the half back, the left back covers back to the cornerback. Everyone covers back. Like for years, you listen to the Sunday game and everyone's talking about, they'd highlight maybe on Larkin or Michael Fennelly, and they'd go, look at Larks and Michael Fennelly, they're dropping back, and they were trying to claim that this is our tactics. The simple thing was, if the ball goes into the full back line, the half back line straight away, you should know that your heightened expectation there that there's danger on. So you leave your man, which means the midfielder needs to now cover the half back line or the half forward line, and the half forward line have to come out to midfield. So you're just straight away, you're dropping back. That's just what happens. That's work rate for you. And again, if the goal doesn't come off, you can build it through the lines, and the lads will get back up the field. But that happens straight away. If you look at, and not to slag other counties, but I think there's a lot of Mayfain goes on in some of the counties when you're watching them, that if the corner forward is running in, he's after turning the corner back and he's running in, the full back will stay in his man and he'll just go straight in, the corner forward will just go in and bury it. And it's kind of a case of the full back going, well, my man didn't score. There's a bit of that going on. That's never the case in Kilkenny at all. They'll make sure that if they see danger, some go back, and they'll always trust that another back is back covering their man.
That's really interesting, because you always hear kept the man scoreless, and that's the way that it's become kind of how GA analysis is spoken of, whereas actually did the defence concede is a far more important and relevant question.
If you go straight after, did your man score? Then, that gets inside the fullback's head and going, well, no, he did score, or he didn't score. But then you're like, yeah, but that's because you headed off. And I've seen it. I just see it in a lot of counties. It's the one thing I'd look for in. There's two things actually I'd look at when a team is behind. First of all, do the forwards start popping balls over the bar? If they're about 8 points behind, there's a few minutes left. They obviously need goals, and you have some lad who starts thinking about their all-star then and starts popping over his point and another point. The free taker comes up and he adds another one to the list there, so it's another one to his name. Or does he actually have a crack at it? Does he actually have a go at it and go, right? A bit like even the Tipperary minor there the weekend, the sub would come on, like, and he lofted a lovely ball in. You can just expect on a different day, and you've seen counties that come in, your man goes for he pretends that he's going for his absolute top corner and hits it over the bar by about a foot, and you're kind of going, you're a bit of a fraud there now. We all kind of know that you just want that point beside your name. But it's a bit then like the backs as well. If you have it in your head that I just don't want my man to score, then you're not a team player. If that's what's in your head every single day, that my man doesn't score, well, then you're not going to do anything. If that's what you gauge your good performance off, you're not going to head up your corner back or a half back outside you. You're not going to come in and cover. And again, you'll see it. You see it in the Munster Championship a huge amount there. Just I have in the last few years there where, the likes of, look back at any of those Kyle Hayes, how the hell can he come running in from about 60 yards out or coming in from the sideline and no one hits him at all? It's either two things. It's either poor communication from the goalkeeper, where he's not telling the full back to go and then the cornerback to cover, where he's not giving that double communication, or else you just have very selfish backs.
Right. That is really interesting, because we'll obviously see now this week or in 2 weeks exactly what the Kilkenny response is when Kyle Hayes does come galloping through, because it's sure as night follows day after his performance in the semi-final, they're going to try that early and often. Look, we're nearly out of time, so we might get you on before the final to preview the final in a bit more detail about how the matchups work. But instinctively at the moment, are you seeing a Kilkenny win when you're visualising what happens?
I can't see I think in every aspect Limerick are better, but I cannot see a Kilkenny loss. Right. I just think, like you spoke about that arc that you're talking, I just think it's actually set up for a Kilkenny win.
Right. Well, book it in. We're going to get you on next week again when we have a bit more time to go through exactly how the matchups work, because that was just really fascinating to hear exactly what the aftermath is going to be like and those training sessions as well. David, always great to have you on the show. Thanks a million for making the time for us this morning.
Thanks, Ger. All the best.
It's brilliant stuff from David Herity, and it's coming through in the comments there as well. I'm just going to read this top one here if I can scroll down. Jesus, those A versus B games I'd say are tough going. I see Tommy Walsh definitely believes the players are in Kilkenny, but it's Limerick they're up against. Intriguing stuff, to be honest. Looking forward to it. And Dennis Ryan says Herity is great. OTB really do source brilliant guests. Fair play. Well, he's been brilliant every time we've had him on. I think himself and Tommy made their debuts on OTB around the same time as well, with great stories about the end of the Cody era, which is one of those things that we play on OTB Sports Radio sporadically, so you should dig it out. And actually, in the build-up to the All-Ireland final, we might re-float it on our OTB GA feed. Right, tune into Off the Ball every day this week, where thanks to Sport Ireland Campus, we have daily prizes of €200 vouchers that can be used towards membership at their elite gym facility and pitch rentals for your team, kids sports academies and camps, or a family visit to Aquazone Water Park. Plus there's an amazing overall prize of €1,000 voucher, a money can't buy behind the scenes tour, and a sports team fitness session by an experienced strength and conditioning coach. It's all with thanks to Sport Ireland Campus, the home of Irish sport, from beginners to high performance and everyone in between. Here we go. John Duggan, good morning to you.
Ger, how are you?
I'm very well.
I know.
Hey, John.
So, you want to talk about the Pro-Am?
I can talk about everything. The Pro-Am, the McDowell stuff is interesting in the back pages. What does he expect? What does he expect?
He wants sympathy. He's looking for sympathy from everybody because
you make your bed in life and you lie in your bed.
People have been nasty to him on social media, and in fairness, he says, "I've made this decision for money." He's actually
he finally said it, because he didn't say that initially.
No, he didn't. He said it was about growing the game and the team aspect, and
the excitement of the new format and all that kind of thing. No, it's about the filthy lucre. So, I think what I really think has been really good about the Pro-Am has been just seeing the associated acts around the Pro-Am, with Scotty Scheffler playing Ballybunion and Justin Thomas playing Tralee and Jordan Spieth playing Lahinch. How brilliant is that for Irish tourism and Irish golf? And that is fantastic, that aspect of it. But I do think the fracturing of the game is the big cloud over this, because in the next few years, if Greg Norman, who seems absolutely hell-bent on, there's relentlessness to his agenda, how many times are we going to see the top players in the world competing against each other, maybe 4 times a year at majors and once every 5 years the JP McManus Pro-Am? Because that's the way it's going at the moment. The world ranking points is crucial for that live. If the world ranking points is the key.
They should turn this into a tournament, right? Because it's like
Well, I was looking at the leaderboards, because the whole thing for me about sport is that, and I've been kind of annoyed with golfers recently, because golfers have been really the symbol of selfish human behaviour. But I was interested in the leaderboard because, you're talking about the top names, and Xander Schauffele, 8 under par. Shane Lowry playing well yesterday, Seamus Power playing well. Obviously there's an exhibition element to it, but I was interested because of the depth of the field and the quality of the field.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's incredible that they put this together.
Yeah, 11 of the top 12 in the world. An amazing golf course. I was down there a few years ago myself when after Tom Fazio's rebuilt, and obviously in 5 years' time it'll be 2027. But how many of these golfers will come back to Ireland again and again and again now to play our links courses? And once again, it's another example why we need to have the Irish Open at a links course. Imagine if you had the Irish Open links course, say 3 weeks out from the Open. So imagine this week was obviously the Scottish Open. Imagine last week was the Irish Open. You have 3 weeks of links golf before the Open Championship. That would be brilliant to see.
So the way it works is that the club hosting it pays the European Tour money. They pay them a fee.
The European Tour have got all the money now coming from the PGA Tour.
There's definitely a case for, maybe there's a case for a second tournament in Ireland. And you can see there being a tournament in Adare Manor every year after the Ryder Cup, and there's talk that there will be one, some kind of European Open in the build up. So they
remember the European Open, the K Club, yeah.
Yeah, and that essentially runs as a tester, so that everybody on site knows, and all the staff and volunteers know exactly what it's going to be like. So that you would suspect is coming. There's a little part of me that actually thinks that this is not the worst thing in the world for golf, that a load of players who we don't know about up to this point are emerging as leaders. I'm trying to find the bit earlier where one of the guys who hasn't qualified for the Scottish Open was saying that what should happen this week if the Rebels show up is that the rest of the players should refuse to play.
Russell Knox, was it?
It was somebody else. It was a multi-barreled name.
Lorenzo Vera?
Yeah, Lorenzo Vera, right? I was like, I literally had never heard of you 2 weeks ago, really. I don't follow the ins and outs of the European Tour enough. I'm not betting on it enough to know, or at all, to see exactly what the crack is with him. But like, he's my guy now. I'm cheering for him. I'm like, that would be amazing.
He's the Arthur Scargill of...
he just puts his driver down and goes, I'm not playing. You're playing. You're stealing all the money from our pockets. You're trying to break our tour.
Yeah.
You're chatting away and chirping down at us. You're like big time on all of us golfers who, without us, there wouldn't have been tournaments in the past that you've won, and now we're not playing. What are you going to do? That would be amazing.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing.
I'm like, I'm fully signed up for that. And these little factions and rows. And like, I don't know. I mean, the atmosphere at the Irish Open was unbelievable on the day of the Pro-Am. And it looked great at the weekend. So maybe golf got away from itself when it just became the money fight, right? And now all of the greediest players are all playing together. And the rest of the world can kind of ignore them because the tournaments are rubbish and meaningless, have no history and no tradition, and it's very difficult to build an entirely new sport, 54-hole competition with no cut, no jeopardy, nothing for them to play for. We know they've all got rich this week. Like,
it's soulless. It's utterly soulless. It's without meaning. It's not what life's about. Sport to me is all about the fans and the customer. The customer is the supporters and the competition. And I was at Croke Park for Kilkenny Clare, and I'll be going to Dubs Kerry this weekend. These guys getting no money, and it's all about soul. And you rip the soul out of something. That's why I'm so angry about this kind of thing. It's not it's not even about the Saudi thing, because everybody is all whataboutery about other countries, and other countries have got other issues. So it's not even about that necessarily. It's about the fact that it's just so soulless to just destroy the whole concept of competition in sport and legacy and playing to try and win, and the money's just a byproduct of that.
Yeah. Like McDowell and everybody else does have a valid point when they talk about the hypocrisy of the European Tour who brought the Saudis in. It's true. Like, and GMAC with his
DP World sponsor the European Tour, and was there not an issue with P&O and all that kind of thing?
GMAC is saying the Saudi Arabian links to 9/11 are tenuous. It's like, well, the vast majority of the people who perpetrated 9/11 were Saudi Arabian. Documents have recently been declassified, which suggests that there was consular support for at least a couple of the bombers in Los Angeles. And you're like, okay, I mean, I'm not drawing any specific lines here saying that it was a state-run thing, but the Bin Laden family, originally a massive Saudi family.
There's a massive geopolitical aspect to this, because golf in America is it's white.
I'm just a golfer, though.
It's white. It's corporate. There is a geopolitical MBS and Biden and all that kind of thing. There's a strained relationship there at the moment. It's interesting that a lot of these courses that are going to be showcasing live golf are Trump courses. So there's a huge geopolitical aspect to this. That can't be, ignored, and it's bigger than golf, and that's why, I've never seen a sport being hijacked like this. Whereas, you might have a Formula One race in Saudi Arabia, you might have Saudi Arabia sponsoring a football club, but to actually try to take over a sport, that's the thing that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, really interesting to see exactly what comes with that. And Claire, I'm sorry for your trouble.
Yeah, 24 wides. It was just a bit like Meath Kerry in 2001 when they just. It was just one of those days you just knew this was going to be a very, very long evening, as it was, and they just lost their heads. Just constantly taking long-range pot shots and wides. And it's interesting, Kilkenny were bombarding that full back line, and they only got one goal, but it could have been a lot more. And it would be Brian Cody's greatest achievement. And I've said here publicly, and I've said that I felt over the last few years that Kilkenny maybe needed a fresh voice and a bit of freshness. But if he does do it against Limerick, it'll be his greatest achievement, because it really is the last box for Limerick to tick.
Yeah, it's perfect for Limerick, though. Do you know? It's like, how do you get them up for another All-Ireland final?
Well, that's it.
Like, well,
it's 2019. It's the fact that they got caught. They were asleep for the first half against Kilkenny, but it's that. The Kilkenny DNA is back, like the work rate, the hook and the block, and the intensity. It's the Mikey Kerry, the storylines there. The DNA is back, and for Limerick to the champions to be facing Kilkenny, it is a fantastic storyline. And we got three fantastic storylines now in the GA. We've got the hurling storyline with Galway Derry storyline, the novelty and the freshness of that, and then the Dubs Kerry, which will always be so special as a rivalry. And there's still tickets on sale for it. And obviously, with cost of living and all that kind of thing, it's harder for people to travel. But I was looking at Ticketmaster this morning, and Dublin Kerry still tickets available, whereas I think 3 or 4 years ago that might not have been the case.
Oh, and I presume the Kerry Mafia are travelling in style?
Yes, indeed. About travelling in style. What does that look like in your mind actually when you pose that question? Is it like
they're equivalent of the Pope Mobile, whatever that is?
Yes, just large 2-story
pitchforks.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Lamps.
That's it. Meet outside the Gresham for anybody who wants to join the Kerry Mafia for one day only on Sunday to finally wrestle control from the evil empire.
I haven't been in your head at all about this. I can't believe it. I've been missing the opportunity on a daily basis. The clock starts ticking now. Ratchet up the tension. You're down amongst your people, kind of. What's the feeling?
Very nervous. This Sunday is like a crossroads for this team, isn't it? For this Kerry team. If they lose on Sunday, like just picture that scene at the full-time whistle, that Kerry team beaten, and then picture the scene of them victorious at the full-time whistle. It feels like both of those outcomes are extremely significant. Like there's no way you can paint a picture where a defeat isn't hugely damaging for Kerry in the long term, and also where a win wouldn't put them in as All-Ireland favourites to finally get over the line with this team. So no pressure, but it's, what day is it? Tuesday?
They're so arrogant, aren't they, Kerry people? Like Owen in particular.
Yada.
It's so important. I am history this weekend, says Owen. The whole country.
I've got nothing to do with it. I might not even go.
Kerry your favourites.
Sit at home.
Kerry your odds on.
Or something.
Owen, who's the most interesting person you met down there?
Good question. There's a lot of interesting people that I've met down here. Who was the most interesting? You know what? Like, I mean, did we play out Alan Hansen earlier? I think Alan Hansen's quite an interesting guy.
He tried to run away from you. We didn't even get to talk to you. He was like literally running away from you.
I was just like, just sit down just for one more question. He wasn't running away. He was just like trying to stand up, and like when you stand up, you kind of say the interview's over. But I had more questions, and I find it fascinating that somebody can walk away from football and punditry and just stick to their word and not have that bug whatsoever, because he kind of like faded into black, didn't he?
Yeah.
In terms of his public football life. So yeah, I find that interesting. I haven't really been out in the course yesterday. Didn't really get out to kind of see.
Go and meet Bill Murray. Come on, go on. You'll regret it for the rest of your life if you don't.
Well, that is the ambition. That's the plan.
We'll sort it out. What are you doing? Why are you talking to us? Go and meet Bill Murray.
I have just a consummate professional. Have to sit here and chat to you guys.
Look at how much of look at what Nathan did with Jordan Spieth. You just do the same with Bill Murray. Come on, you can do it.
I wasn't allowed to do golfers. I was told, Golf Weekly can do the golf and you can do, the other stuff. That was my strict instruction. If you see a man with a golf club, do not talk to that. You are not qualified.
The kimono is open, Owen. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Right, well, a reminder, OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We're live in studio next with Irish tennis pro Jenny Claffey to chat Wimbledon. First, though, here's Nathan and Jordan Spieth. We've been teasing this, as they say in the business, for about over an hour and a half now. This is at Adare Manor yesterday. A modern day bromance, or possibly a romance.
Well, Jordan, it looked like you were having a very fun time out there today. Yeah. How was it?
I've never seen anything like this. I had no idea it was like this at all. We don't see crowds like that, but for majors or Ryder Cups, and that's pretty incredible, the support and what JP's been able to do, and made it what was already worth it, even more so. Really, really, really neat. Fans were, just the spectacle was amazing.
There's a lot of love for you in this country.
Yeah, there's a lot of love for everybody. It's a great, maybe some of the best sports fans in general, in the world. And, they love their golf, obviously. Show up and just seas of people here. And it's pretty amazing halfway around the world to feel that kind of support. And whether, ideally I can be back here in 5 years and, maybe they'll still be just as respectful, but very much more so for the other side.
Yeah, might be a bit different. Yeah. I'd ask how your trip to Ireland was, but you've met the goats in Lahinch. You were drinking pints of Guinness at about 10 a.m. down in Tralee. You've been having a good time.
Yeah, but that was like on the back nine already. So we'd already had most of the day already. So we don't, if you think about it, it was like midnight back at home, so it makes a little more sense, right?
Absolutely.
So, I feel like I could justify. It's been great. We were very much looking forward to this trip for a long time, and sad that sad to be heading out tomorrow, but a couple big weeks coming up.
I was talking to Stuart Sink before about his trips to Ireland, and he always felt before Turnberry was such a crucial thing. I think he played Lahinch as well. How much of it was actually serious work as well, of getting into that links vibe?
Just the playing part. I haven't done any practicing or anything over here, but playing links golf, you start, obviously it's just so different the way the wind plays, how short it all plays into greens downwind, and then how many extra clubs you need to take and flight the ball and chip it, and very much judging like the grass types, that's what's so different. So I think it's very beneficial to having played a couple links rounds. I'm glad we went and did that, and now we play this beautiful place and then head over for some solid links in Scotland.
Your wife's waiting for you. The reason I was annoying you was you don't understand. Our golf podcast has been accused of being a Jordan Spieth fan club in Ireland, and they're all meeting tomorrow up in Killeen Castle. Can you give them a big hello?
Yeah,
and say
sure.
Hi?
Thank you very much. That's incredible. Thanks for the support.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jordan.
You got it.
Oh yeah, very, very meaningful from Jordan Spieth. He's going to remember that for the rest of his life, but Nathan certainly will. It's 8:55. Jenny Claffey is with us. Jenny, good morning to you. How are you?
Good, very well. Thanks for having me in here this morning.
It's been a very interesting Wimbledon. None of the pre-tournament favourites from the women's perspective are still standing, with maybe the exception of Simone Halep, but I'm not sure if we expected her to perform as well as she's performing at the moment. So what the hell's going on?
I know it's an interesting event here on the women's side, especially. Like, we all thought Swiatek was gonna take it home, after her amazing run this year, and then she just didn't put that to form in Wimbledon. It's kind of disappointing to see that, but I think Jabeur, we mentioned her last week about her potential, and she's still on course for that. Looking at Halep, I think that it could be a Halep Jabeur final that we'd be looking at on Saturday.
Cornet hammered Swiatek and then got beaten herself.
Yeah, I think Cornet really took it to Swiatek, and Swiatek was having a pretty off day when they were playing. She said herself that she was confused tactically against Cornet, because Cornet's a very tricky player.
Right.
She was just chipping the balls, like making it very difficult for Swiatek. Swiatek didn't get into a rhythm at all in that match. And then Cornet has been there before. She beat Serena Williams 8 years ago in the exact same centre court,
right.
same round. Yeah. So she's been there before. She knows how to play in those big arenas. And Swiatek just didn't, even from the first round, Swiatek didn't look very impressive. She never really found her form, and it really showed then against Cornet.
It does seem funny that players like Cornet, who can have that big win and then immediately becomes a crowd favourite because you're knocking out one of the favourites, and then straight out next round.
We see that a lot in tennis, though, that they make those big wins, and then from there then are not able to emulate that success. Like, they have that huge media attention, and then from there it's just like a drop.
Yeah. Any reason for that?
I think when you're not the favourite, so like if you're not one of the top players, like you haven't played at that level for that, you're not playing consistency at that level. You're not, like say looking at Cornet, she hasn't been, competing in the deeper end of the Grand Slam, so she's not that experienced at that level. So then, or else the toll of it physically, although she absolutely hammered Swiatek, so it couldn't have been that.
Yeah.
But she has a few injuries at the moment, Cornet as well. So you want to put it to that rather than her rising and falling because of nerves or etc.
Is it partly to do with the fact that you then are thrust into the spotlight, and all of a sudden the expectation becomes so great that you carry this little bit of burden? I guess I'm trying to ask about the psychological nature of this whole thing, because it does seem as if we're seeing players win sets, for example, against against Djokovic the other night, the Dutch guy who I hadn't heard of before. And McEnroe was making the point in commentary that we should beef up the money on the satellite tour if players can come and play like this, and then he collapsed the next two sets just after he'd won a set. It's like so quick to turn around from Cornet absolutely hammering Swiatek and then beaten the next day and incapable of replicating it. And even within matches we're seeing players incapable of replicating how well they are, because all of a sudden there's like a psychological shift in what they're expected to do from the crowd and what they're expecting themselves to be capable of.
Yeah, I definitely think that has a part to play in it. Of course, like the psychology, like that Dutch player against Djokovic, it was like his in that moment would be thinking, oh my God, I could actually do something here. I may be able to take it to Djokovic, and then just like that, Djokovic though has that experience, and that next gear he can go into to then put him back in his place very quickly. The same with Cornet. The psychological effect of she's beaten the number one seed. This could be her chance, and then she comes up against another opposition who's that bit better maybe. You want to look at it like that, as opposed to it being the psychological collapse. But there is an element of that completely in that they're not in the moment then able to turn it around and emulate the play they have been doing, let's say like the Dutch guy, in the moment, to be able to continue to play and push on. But yeah, I'd rather that they're being beaten by better players than suffering in the moment.
Angers is the number 3 seed, is that right?
Yes.
And she's the highest seed left, obviously. And after that, the only person who's won this before, or has Halep won it before?
Yeah, Halep's won it twice, yeah.
So she's the only one who's won it?
Yeah, so she's the only last Grand Slam winner left in the women's side of the draw. And
which, normally would be like, okay, shoe in for her. But actually, the way things have been going, it's like, well, she's got no chance now.
No, you just don't know what's going to happen on the women's side. In one way, it makes it exciting. In another way, it's a bit, we're still looking for that star in the women's game, But looking at it now, the last eight players we have, like, you have Jabeur, obviously she's a standout on the bottom half, and then we have Halep on the top half. So I think, we can't look past Jabeur or Halep, but then there are those other players there, and those 2 German ladies who are playing today. We've relatively unheard. Both of them are ranked around the top, the 100 mark. Like, you never would have seen that coming looking into Wimbledon at all. If you said at the start of the 2 weeks, would you see Swiatek out, you wouldn't have thought that either. So there's been a lot of upsets, which can be exciting now, but I do think the final 2 we're going to be looking at is Halep and Jabeur.
Right. Owen,
you're going to be cheering Jabeur on?
I might have to, because let bygones be bygones, and think that could have been me. So maybe I will be supporting her. It'd be great to see a player I played against and beat winning Wimbledon, although quite bittersweet, to be honest.
What's this whole experience been like for you? Because when we were chatting last week, we weren't quite sure how far she would go into the tournament, but we're at the business end now and she's still alive. Is this something that's bringing you joy or not?
Yeah, in one way, yeah, it is. It's nice to see that, because it's always nice to see. She's playing a girl today as well, Bushkova, who I also played against. So it's cool to see 2 girls I've played against on tour only a couple of years ago in the quarterfinals of Wimbledon. But yeah, I would be out there supporting Jabeur just because I can claim my claim to fame that I beat her love and love.
What's Bushkova like?
She's a different kind of player. She's a very steady kind of defensive almost type player. She had an amazing win there in the 4th round, only making 4 unforced errors. So that's really showing the strength in her defensive game and how solid she can be. She has a pretty good backhand, and that's probably her strength, and her ground strokes, and then her serve is fairly solid too. But when I played against her there a few years ago, I remember thinking, this girl is good. I remember seeing her practicing and watching some of her matches, and thinking she's going to be in the top 50, and lo and behold, she is there now. I had a pretty tough game against her. I didn't come out the victor in that one, but I do remember playing her and thinking she's going to be a star of the future, and she's still only quite young now, so there's time for her, and she's making an impressive run here in Wimbledon, and she's had a very good grass court season as well.
What is it specifically about her that you saw that day that suggested that she was something different? Is it a skill set? Is it a mentality, or what is it?
Yeah, I think the mentality and the attitude. Like, she just had this very intense persona about her. Like, she went about her business very professionally, different to the other girls that you see. She just had this intensity about her. That's the one word that comes to my mind when I thought back about what was so good about her. It wasn't necessarily, her game that stood out in the match, or that she didn't, her forehand or her backhand wasn't what separated her. It was really the intensity and the attitude she brought to every practice and every match.
How do you see that? Is it like about spending time on tour? Is it like playing her a couple of times, or how do you get to appreciate just that level of character that you're talking about there?
You can see it. Like, you can see it in the dressing room. You can see it in the way they warm up. You can see it in the way they carry themselves. Like, she was just very, very much like a professional. She kept to herself a lot. She was traveling with her dad at the time, and I think he was her coach, and she was just they stuck together the whole time. They were really just went there about the business and wanted to win, and that's what she was doing. She was annihilating opposition at that time when we were playing.
Is there any tennis player at the moment who isn't like that? Is one of the questions I would have. Like, it does seem like it's almost like a prerequisite that there is that sort of ridiculous level of dedication and determination that's required really for you to try and get it to a quarter final at a Grand Slam.
Well, I think you have to have that individual mindset. Being in an individual sport, it is all about what you do and those small details. Every little detail matters. Every day those incremental gains. You're looking for that 1% every day. Like, you're so driven in an individual sport. But then look at Kyrgios. In the men's game, he doesn't come across as the most professional and in the way that he carries himself. But I think that most athlete in tennis is going to be like that, driven and motivated.
Does that work for Kyrgios, do you think, or do you think that actually holds him back and stops him from achieving what his talent could possibly achieve?
I think there's two sides to that. I think it serves him in one way, the way that he carries on, but then, also I don't think that, he hasn't got the success that he has potential to succeed, to get in his career. He hasn't got past quarter-final in a Grand Slam, and we've been talking about him for like 7 or 8 years now, and he just hasn't quite succeeded in those big moments. But I think this could be a different year for Kyrgios, but his attitude and behaviour, I mean, the game needs someone like him as well. Like, it can't all be the prim and proper Roger Federers. It's nice to have a bit of a difference in the game.
Can we go back?
Go on. Yeah. I'm sorry, I was going to say that I love that. Like, I mean, were you kind of like tutting at Tsitsipas versus Kyrgios on Saturday, or were you like, give me more of this?
Yeah, that was box office stuff, that match between Tsitsipas and Kyrgios, but also a little bit childish from the both of them. But as I said, that serves Kyrgios, that kind of on-court circus behaviour that he goes on with, and he gets under the skin of his oppositions, and Tsitsipas is guilty of that. He's got to put his hands up and say he let Kyrgios get under his skin and bother him, and ultimately Kyrgios beat him.
I'd love to see some stats, some proper analysis on the underarm serves and how successful they are, because there was somebody else was doing 5 or 6 of them in another match, and in the short clip that I saw on Twitter, which let's face it is not exactly chapter and verse and the equivalent of XG, but like, it seems to piss people off so much that they inevitably end up losing the point.
Yeah, I actually thought the underarm serve wasn't allowed, and then you see them doing it obviously in Wimbledon. That is a tactic just to throw your opponent, solely to throw your opponent. I thought you had to have an injury to serve underarm, but obviously not. And Kyrgios is using that to his advantage. It can be deemed fairly unsportsmanlike though.
Oh, totally. Well,
that.
But like, it turns out unsportsmanlike is this kind of unwritten code, and so therefore not, unless they're going to give you a violation, at which point it's going to be a massive row, because you've decided that this thing which is within the rules is, so...
I think Kyrgios makes his own rules though, to be honest.
Seems to be, yeah. I was definitely on the side that, like, Tsitsipas hit the ball into the crowd, should have been disqualified. It felt to me like Kyrgios, and I've not been his biggest fan here. Colm is his biggest fan here and has been defending him his entire time. He got a point. He had a point, right?
Yeah, he got a point penalty.
No, sorry, he had a point in the argument. Like, this guy just hit the ball into the crowd. If I had done that, a bomb would have gone off here and you would have thrown me out.
Yeah, but that's actually true, because Kyrgios, you can see over the course of his career, he has been subjected to many fines, and obviously that's been warranted because of his behaviour. But yeah, in that situation, I think they had a point, but that in the rules of tennis, that is such a grey area.
Yeah.
It's not black and white. So I think, if Kyrgios was the one to hit the ball out, it actually hit of the wall and came back and hit a spectator.
I thought it did as well. Colm was insisting that it hadn't hit anybody in the back, but I'm pretty sure that, like, your man ducks, but then I'm like, where did the ball go? We don't see the ricochet on camera. Pretty sure
it hit someone right
in the
head.
ball doesn't disappear. E equals MC squared, buddy. Anyway, can we go back to Ange-Gilbert, because I wasn't here last week, and so what age were you when you beat Ange-Gilbert?
It was I was 20, so that was a few years ago. Yeah, I was playing. We were playing Fed Cup, so she was playing for Tunisia, and I was obviously playing for Ireland in Egypt. And it was 1-1, I think, in the tie. And there's 3 matches, and it came down to that match, and we won. Ireland won. We didn't qualify, but they had actually already won. They'd qualified at that stage. But she, at that as well, she was one of those players that people were talking about. She was very talented. You could see the way she plays now is exactly how she was playing then, with very good touch, and she's got a lot of variety in her game. And she was, even at that age, she was only maybe 18 at that time. She had a lot of those skills there, and she's gone on and obviously shown that she's capable of the potential that they said she had.
She's had a great career and is still kind of peaking at this stage too. So what has allowed her to go from that level to this level, do you think? Was that where she was destined for anyway?
Yeah, I think that stage, she was on a course to be a professional tennis player. She's obviously very young at 18, and from there she's progressed, and obviously said she's only now really reaching the potential she's capable of, and I think she's got a good few years ahead of her at the top of the game. She's now the number 3 in the world, and she's got a great game to suit all surfaces, great mentality and a good athlete. Yeah, I think that she's made for more.
Two other of the women that we should be talking about is Amanda Anisimova.
Yeah.
So she beat Harmony Tan. Harmony Tan had knocked out Serena. Again, one of those and Harmony Tan was going deep, and it felt like, ooh, this is going to be one of those things where we're, in the French Revolution, and then, no, sorry, we've had enough now of the French. Thanks very much, all in one day.
Yeah, like you were alluding to earlier, the fact that she, the players who have those big wins against Williams, and then I thought she would be knocked out in the next round because, she was also unheard of, and, her ranking's quite high, and having beat Williams, then there's this huge media a spotlight on her, and then she's done quite well getting to the fourth round. But then Anisimova is a very tough opposition. She has a few years ago she was doing really well. She's ran deep in all of the Grand Slams this year. She's made it past the fourth round. Anisimova, she's a super solid, powerful player. As I said, a few years ago she was kind of reaching her peak. I thought she's only very young, but then her dad suddenly passed away, I think, and that kind of knocked her. Since she would have been one of the stars we've been talking about, like Andrea Andreescu as well. They were kind of similar, these two girls, and she's getting back now on form. As I said, this year she's showing consistency in the slam, so she's a threatening player as well.
So she's up against Simona Halep, and that's maybe the greatest threat Simona Halep faces before the final.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best match we're going to see in the women's quarterfinal is Anisimova and Halep, and the two big hitters coming up against each other. But I think Halep has that experience and will be able to edge her in that match. Okay, and Tatiana Maria is the German who is up against Juli Neymar, and Maria's best previous is in the second round, so that's one of those plucky underdog stories. Yeah, that's an interesting matchup between these two Germans, kind of like the old and new. Neymar's only 22, so she's quite young and she's only coming into her career, whereas we have Maria, who is a mother of two. Like this time last year she was only having a baby, and she's shown her best results after she's had her two kids. So she has an 8-year-old now, and I think 8 years ago she got to the fourth round or so in a Grand Slam, and I don't know, maybe there's something in that. But that'll be a matchup again of two different styles of players, but old and new, so it'll be exciting to see. I think Neymar might come through on that one, just with the way that she's playing in the game that she has.
Okay, Collis, who's going to win the men's?
I think it might be Djokovic. Wouldn't it be great to see a Djokovic-Nadal final? That would be very exciting. Although most people want to see a Djokovic-Kyrgios. Could that be a final out there? But I think Djokovic is he's showing his form now. He's coming into himself in Wimbledon. He's had a bit of a rocky season so far with all of the COVID issues, etc.
He's still playing pretty well, isn't he?
Yeah, annoyingly so. Yeah, he's playing very well. He's really showing Djokovic not of old. He's obviously still playing the way he can play, but I think that he's going to be the man to beat in this tournament.
He's having these little rests in matches where he's losing a set, but then immediately comes back and is crushing people with the full range of everything that he can do, like little drop shots, little drop volleys, absolutely whacking serves. He's been motivated, it looks like, by what Nadal has done.
Yeah, well, he's a player with a huge repertoire. He can do pretty much anything from anywhere. He's an amazing defender on the court, but then on a grass court, he's able to really step up and play with power, and he's hitting the ball so powerfully. I was listening to some of the commentators there saying that, when you actually see him on live, the sheer speed of the ball that he's hitting, he's just penetrating through the court and keeping the opponent pushed back, and then then he's able to come up to the net and use his volleys and these amazing drop shots. He's just such an all-round player. It's going to be hard to see anyone beating him this Wimbledon.
One last question for you. We saw Alcaraz and Sinner, and it feels like that's the version of the future that hopefully in a couple of years' time we'll be looking back on. Remember that was the start of their rivalry on this court and on a bunch of other courts. Am I grasping a little bit too much? Are they not quite at the level yet where they could be dominant forces in the next couple of years?
No, I think you're right. I think that they will be the names that we'll be talking about in years to come, especially Alcaraz. I mean, we've been talking about Sinner for a few years now, and last year he won a Masters title, or he was runner-up in the Masters title, and Masters final, and he's been a player we've been talking about. Sinner, he's got an amazingly powerful game, but then he just went off the boil there a little bit. But Alcaraz is the man, I think, of the future. Definitely, he's the next Spaniard and Nadal, I'm going to say there, he's got a super game. He just didn't take it to the grass courts at all. His movement wasn't very good. He was serving very well, but movement wasn't very good. I didn't think, and I was surprised that Sinner actually beat him, but maybe a little bit of experience on grass had him beating Alcaraz. But these guys will be the stars of the future, definitely, I think.
It sets it up nicely for the rest of the year as well. Jenny, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
It's 14 minutes past 9. Here's what's coming up on OTB Sports Radio today. At 1 o'clock, OTB Gold is Jerry Eisenberg talking about Muhammad Ali. Koi Gig is our Euro show at 3 o'clock. Career retrospective of Damien Delaney at 4 o'clock. And then Ronnie Delaney at 6 is OTB Gold, where he talks about his incredible career. Richie McCormick is hosting the show tonight from 7. You can follow Off the Wall across all of our social channels, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to download the OTB Sports app for the very latest and best sports content and analysis. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Up next, Formula 1 with broadcaster and journalist Chris Medland reviewing Silverstone. Stay tuned.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
This summer, we're bringing you double Koi Gig.
I just burst out laughing, to be fair, because you've waited so long for a goal and it should have been disallowed. It was a blatant handball. That nearly makes it all the better. The fact that it was such a weird and wonderful goal. It absolutely reflects Niamh Fahey as a person.
But that'll make for great content for the podcast.
Well, that's why we do it.
For the best insight and analysis from this summer's Euros, subscribe to the Koi Gig pod on the OTB Sports app now.
Things that put people off on a first date. Showing up late and getting your name wrong? Always a great start. Looking at their phone more than you? Hello? Someone who only talks about themselves. Oh, really? God, aren't you great? Look, no one said dating is perfect, but at GoDating.ie, we promise we'll always try and find your perfect match. Because somewhere out there, there's someone for you. And GoDating.ie will help you find them. Yes, even you, socks and sandals guy. Go on, go for it with GoDating.ie.
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Right, 16 minutes past 9. Owen, who do you want to see win Wimbledon?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, if we could have Nick Kyrgios in the winner's enclosure at some point in any Grand Slam, I would take that.
This is probably going to be your best chance to see that happen, I think.
It feels like it, doesn't it? Unless there's like some sort of continuation of this level of form when Djokovic does eventually exit stage left, and same with Nadal, and there's just an opportunity for him to hang around, and in a Wimbledon in 2 or 3 years' time, he just picks one up. But I think we all want to see him win. Well, no, we all, not all of us want to see him win, but I think a lot of us want to see him win just for the chaotic element of it all.
The red hat as the tournament trophy is being hoisted. That would be, so, it's funny how that is like the absolute outrage when actually loads of other stuff is happening. You're like, well, maybe their priorities are wrong. 17 minutes past 9. Let's turn our attention to events at the British Grand Prix. I'm delighted to say Chris Medland, Formula 1 broadcaster and journalist, is with us now. Chris, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I saw in one of the papers today the halo was described as the controversial or much despised halo. For those of us who are coming to Formula 1 relatively new, and it turns out there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people tuning into Formula 1 in increasing numbers, the crowd is swelling. Why was the halo so controversial in the first place, and why were people so against it?
So 2017 was the last season that we didn't have the halo. So basically the driver was slightly less protected. You could see them more. You could see them inside the cockpit. Formula 1's always been an open cockpit racing series with open wheels, so the wheels aren't covered either. And it was seen at the time as going against the DNA of F1. I mean, let's be honest, it's quite an ugly contraption to have this kind of unit in front of the driver and over the top of them, like almost a cage around them. And it for some people took away a bit of the aspect and as they would call it, the DNA of F1, and removed the ability to see the driver so closely, for the driver to have that experience of being completely open, and the way Formula 1 had always been. But it didn't take long for certain incidents to happen where the halo had really saved a driver's life, or certainly saved them from serious injury, that those people that were dead against it started to sort of change their minds. And I think this weekend especially, there's probably 2 incidents where we can really thank it for making sure that drivers weren't either killed or seriously injured. So it's been one of those things where you just needed a bit of time for the examples to roll out for them people to kind of change their minds.
The footage is so spectacular at the weekend where the sparks are flying from the halo, and afterwards the driver is speaking. It's such a remarkable thing. Does this mean that we'll see more changes in Formula One, or is this kind of the end of it's now? Is it now safe enough that they don't need to make too many more changes like this?
No, it'll never be safe enough in the sense that Formula One will always keep trying to improve. But I don't think it'd be around the halo that they actually make changes. I think that was a big step to protect the driver's head. Obviously, they wear helmets, but as you could see with that accident at the weekend, if the halo wasn't there, the helmet is against the ground at that speed. But that's because the roll hoop failed. So there's a roll hoop at the top of the car that should keep the car a certain distance above the ground if it's upside down, or if something lands on top of it, to protect the driver's head as well. And that failed at that speed with the heat and with the impact. It seems that the cars are so heavy now that basically the test will need to be beefed up for next year to make sure that the roll hoops will sustain that kind of force. So that's the sort of thing that will improve moving forward. Essentially, every time you get another case where there's excessive loads or bigger loads that something has to withstand, then everything gets beefed up to deal with it. It kind of in response. So the FIA, the governing body, will be analysing the accidents of the weekend and trying to work out, okay, what can we learn from here to make sure that the next time this happens, the cars are even more safe.
How are the drivers from the 2 incidents at the weekend?
So in a sense, I should probably mention 3 incidents actually. So Guan Yu Zhou is fine. In fact, all of the drivers are fine, which is great to say. Guan Yu Zhou was the Alfa Romeo driver who was upside down, and then his car dug into the gravel trap, flipped over the tyre barrier, and landed hit the fence that stopped it getting into the grandstand and dropped behind the barrier the wrong way. So he was stuck in the car for a long time, but was completely fine, which was incredible. And he came out to the pit wall to see his team and kind of make them all know he was okay. And the crowd was going crazy. And he asked his team members, oh, who just overtook who? Thinking Lewis Hamilton had passed someone, and the crowd was going wild for that. And they're like, no, that's for you, that you've just come out of that unscathed. The other one was Alex Albon, who had quite a big hit into the concrete barrier at turn 1. And it was at the same time at a separate incident, and that gave him some back pain. So he was taken to a hospital in Coventry by air ambulance just to check him over, and it actually just took a long time. But he's fine. He's already sort of doing rehab work and should be okay to race this weekend in Austria. He was even cooking burgers on a barbecue by Sunday night. So it was just precautionary, those checks. And the other one was a guy called Roy Nissany, who races in Formula 2, who had another car basically T-bone him, but from an airborne position, launched off another curb, and without the halo, he would have been seriously injured or killed. I mean, it would have hit his helmet clean. So he's also fine, having been so close to much worse injuries. So yeah, really, in a sense, really lucky, but these are safety advances that F1 makes to protect against these incidents. So as scary as they were, it's a testament to that work.
The race itself, obviously, somewhat overshadowed a little bit in a aftermath because of those incidents, but it turns out it was an actually brilliant race as well.
Yeah, it was a classic. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about it being one of the best races they've seen. I think because of the racing we got. Silverstone is a high-speed circuit. It's perfect for these new cars that are high downforce, but generated in different ways. So drivers can follow more closely, but it's very, very high speed. And we had spells of racing where drivers were 3-4 wide. Towards the end, there was an amazing moment where Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc were fighting over second place at the final few corners. They both kind of run off the track because they're fighting so hard, and Lewis Hamilton passes them both on the inside, and the place erupted. Now, Hamilton lost that place 2 corners later because they can fight so closely, but there was some amazing racing going on. Carlos Sainz got his first win, which was very popular because he's been a popular driver for a while, but his spell at McLaren specifically, I think, really elevated him to another level, and everyone was pleased to see him finally get a win for Ferrari. It wasn't a good day for Max Verstappen because of car damage. He actually did really well to fight on and finish 7th, but I think the home fans that are largely Lewis Hamilton fans were quite pleased to see Verstappen have an off day or a tough day after he won the title last year. So they were very, very pleased to have Sainz in first, and then Sergio Perez recovered brilliantly to second after damage at the start, and Hamilton got on the podium in third. So there was a spell it looked like Hamilton could have won that race. Mercedes were much more competitive than usual, and if he'd have won it, if there are any roofs on some of the grandstands, they definitely would have come off. But yeah, third was still a good result for him.
The process by which Mercedes are trying to become competitive over the course of the season, is there anything they can do to accelerate that so the end of the season is more interesting from their perspective, or are we really looking at next year before that car is genuinely capable of producing a contender for a world title?
No, I think they're making good progress now, actually. There's certain upgrades they've brought that they've started to understand things. They might be a bit limited in their development this year, that they can't quite get onto the level of Red Bull and Ferrari at every circuit. But I think we'll see them closer to the top two, sort of from the summer break onwards, at most tracks, and at certain tracks that suit them. Circuits like Suzuka, which is very high speed in Japan and smooth is the thing they need, then they're going to be very, very competitive and in the fight for wins. So Austria is a bit TBC, which is coming up this weekend. But in 2 weeks, we then go to France, Paul Ricard, and that's a smooth circuit with some high speed corners where I think they'll be competitive again. So I think as the season goes on, we'll actually see a more competitive Mercedes, but they're probably too far back to really be a threat in the championship battle. They can just probably worry Red Bull and Ferrari more regularly for fights for race wins.
But the feeling will be that next year they will be properly competitive again?
You'd hope so, but at the same time, they're on the back foot from this year, and this is the start of a new era of car. The other two teams have kind of nailed their concepts a bit better. They've been more competitive this year, and they will upgrade their cars for next season too. So they will refine what they've already got. Now, in one sense, Mercedes has more scope for improvement, or they could go for a different concept if they feel like what they've gone for isn't going to get them to the front again. But they seem confident that if they can make it work, they've got a race-winning car in there. So I think it's higher probability that they have a stronger start to 2023 than they did this year, but there's no guarantees based on the fact that everyone will be doing the same sort of work to improve.
Yeah, of course, everybody else going to improve at the same time. What about Hamilton's future? Is there any chatter around about a potential retirement next year?
No, I think there was a bit from Sir Jackie Stewart saying that he thought that Lewis should kind of retire and go and pursue some of his other interests rather than sort of fade from competitiveness at the front. But Hamilton was not happy to hear that, and Jackie Stewart actually wanted to clarify that he kind of didn't mean right now. It's just at the moment that happens, and that's not happening yet. I mean, we saw Lewis at his best at times at the weekend at Silverstone. Some of the moves, some of the racing was sensational and so clean. It's the stuff that you really need to be so precise. There was a move with Charles Leclerc at the place where Hamilton and Verstappen collided last year, very controversially, where the two of them went inches wheel to wheel through the corner. Leclerc actually overtook Hamilton around the outside. One of the best moves I've seen in a long time. But the way they were both fighting, and Hamilton did come out on top in the end, was sensational to watch. And I don't think that Hamilton will be retiring anytime soon, partly because he loves that racing. He loves those moments, but he also loves the fact that he's seeing Mercedes just claw its way back towards the front. And if this year is not going to be a championship winning year, which it almost certainly isn't, then next year is more likely to be one if they can start on the right foot. So he'll be kind of thinking that this year is the year to work hard and try and put those foundations in place to try and get that 8th title in 2023.
We've spoken a good bit on the show, Chris, over the last 18 months really about the popularisation and the second coming of the sport. While obviously the hype around it is hugely important in dragging the new fans in and showing the soap opera, the most important thing is the quality of the racing being good and sustainably good. And it turns out that actually, while the sport has been accused of being hyper-conservative in the past, the changes that they've made to allow the type of racing that you've described at Silverstone at the weekend has been really beneficial. The product has been ready, I suppose, for the hype that has been coming alongside it.
Oh, absolutely. I was kind of surprised, but pleasantly surprised yesterday. I just play football here back home on a Monday night, and one of the guys that I play with went to his first Grand Prix at Silverstone. I didn't know he was there, and he was sat at a corner where there was some overtaking, not loads, but some. And he said it's the best sporting event he's ever been to. He said he went from kind of a casual F1 fan who followed it and watched races on TV a bit to now he wants to go to multiple races. He says the event, the atmosphere, everything's incredible, and the racing was brilliant. And he was supporting Hamilton. He said every time he comes by, it's like a goal being scored, like every 2 minutes. And he just said that atmosphere and excitement, you just can't escape it. So I think that's what's been really important, that anyone who does then invest a lot of money and put in a lot of effort to get to one of these races, because there's over 140,000 now on Sunday. You've got to deal with a big crowd and a lot of walking around and waiting around and traffic. You need a good show at the end of it, and that's exactly what they got. So you're right, Formula One has been working on multiple different fronts at kind of expanding its reach and its growth and its popularity, and it's done it through off-track ventures like Drive to Survive, or the way it's done on the TV series, or the way it's opened up social media. The drivers are more personable now. They're really letting their personalities show through, and they're very honest through social media and stuff like that mainly. But then they get into the cars, and we're getting good racing because F1 also invested in these rules and regulations and the research to try and make sure that the cars were still extremely quick. That's the main thing. You want them to be amazing technological creations that are rapid, but that you can race with them. And it's not hard to put the two together. So they've done a really, really good job, I think, this year of making a step towards that.
I am just really disappointed that Eddie Irvine isn't 15, 17, 19-year-old driver breaking through right now, because, I mean, you know, this would be his moment to shine with a desire for people to have a bit of personality. One last question for you. A YouTube commenter who's watching Shifty Lads, regular contributor to the show, asks, can you ask, value for money, weather, country, what's the best Formula One race to go to in Europe?
In Europe, I'd probably say Budapest, the Hungarian Grand Prix. An amazing city that's not too expensive. The track's not too far away. The weather's normally great. The fans are great. You get a lot of Scandinavian fans coming down as well to there that like to have a good time. And the racing's been pretty good there in the last few years. It used to be actually a bad track for racing, but that's certainly improved as well. So, I think value for money, I'd probably go with Budapest.
All right, come for the F1 analysis, get some travel advice. Chris, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you.
Owen, is Formula One proper Grand Prix on your bucket list?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to go. Have you been to one?
I was in the Barcelona Grand Prix like 15 years ago, maybe. It was a different experience. Couldn't really see much. Didn't really have a clue what was going on.
I think it's got a lot busier as well since
Might
then.
have been up all night in advance of it, because Barcelona's that kind of city, so, you know, couldn't possibly detail exactly what happened or remember any of it. Might have fallen asleep in the infield.
I'm sure it was a great race. I'm sure it was an absolute cracker, a historically good, memorable race.
There you go. Right. Didn't quite mean to admit that this morning on the show, but sure, there you go. What are your plans for the rest of the day, Owen?
I don't know. I'd say I've probably missed most of the morning, lads, at this point. So we'll see who comes back in around lunchtime and who goes out. And yeah, we will see. That is hang around.
Incorrect. The plan for the rest of the day is to go and get Bill Murray. That's your plan. There's nothing else going on. Just get Bill Murray.
Yes. I need to find out what time. I hope I haven't missed him. But that going to get him will probably involve the secret sauce, which is hanging around.
Okay.
Can you hang around good?
I want a question on Scrooged. I want a question on Groundhog Day, and I want a question on Ghostbusters.
And not about whether or not Cian Lynch should start the final, no?
And you should ask that too. I mean, that one might get a little bit lost in translation.
Wow, I mean, this is just like your best quality work of all time right there.
OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Right. We're back tomorrow morning from 7:30. Johnny Ward hosting duties. We'll be talking Man United with Andy Mitten, the start of the Women's Euros with Emma Byrne. We'll turn our attention to the All-Ireland Senior Football semi-finals ahead of the weekend. But right now, we're going to leave you with more of Nathan's love-ins from Adare Manor. This time, Ricky Fowler, Colin Marikawa, and our own Seamus Power. Enjoy these.
Ricky Fowler, just in off the course here at Adare Manor. 5 under par. You enjoyed that?
Yeah, it was, first time seeing the golf course, so just tried to make my way around and not hit it in the wrong spots. There's a lot of movement around the greens, and you gotta be careful. You can end up in some tricky situations with tough up and downs, but pretty impressive to see this style of golf course. Very American golf. And to see the condition of what JP's been able to create here is pretty impressive.
Is the comparison to an Augusta National a fair one?
Yeah, I mean, style of golf course is a bit different. I mean, Augusta has a lot more, up and down and side holes or side hill lies and stuff like that. But as far as condition goes, it's like I said, very impressive what JP's been able to do here. It's fun to play. I enjoyed it today, and looking forward to getting back out tomorrow morning.
Finding a way around, had you a local caddy or did you bring your own caddy?
No, I picked up a local.
He guided you well, obviously.
Yeah, Steve did a great job on the bag. It was just, luckily, I mean, the golf course is for the most part right in front of you. The tough areas are approach shots and making sure that you don't end up in the wrong spot there. I definitely enjoyed it, and in perfect condition, like I talked about.
Yeah, you've played plenty of golf in Europe, so you know the interest levels that are in the PGA Tour, but Jordan Spieth was just saying he was almost blown away by the support that was out there, the knowledge that was out there of what you guys do.
It was, I mean, for a Pro-Am, being here on a Monday and then Tuesday tomorrow, the amount of people out supporting, there's a lot of people out there. So obviously a very good local support. I think it just goes to show, the people appreciate everything that JP's done and what he's created here over the years. Continues to just get better. But we're all here because of what he's created, and everyone's enjoying their week.
You guys took this a bit more serious today than you did your trip to Tralee. Was it yesterday?
That was
you
yesterday.
Drinking pints on the back nine?
We had a couple pints at the turn.
How was the Guinness?
Oh, it's great. The Guinness is always better over here. No, we enjoyed it. Tralee was a lot of fun to play. Definitely adding that to the list of some of my favorites.
What? Go on, give us a quick 1, 2, 3. I'm putting you on the spot on your favourite links in Ireland.
County Down is still my favourite, playing the Walker Cup there in 07. Really enjoyed Portmarnock. We played prior to that. I haven't been able to play a whole lot on this side of the island. I'd love to be able to come back and get here a little earlier so I could go play a few more.
I'm thinking, watching you out there, you're scrapping and you're fighting at the moment, trying to get yourself right back up there of the last JP Pro-Am, which was won by Darren Clark, who was probably in a similar position at that time and really sparked a revival in his career over the next couple of years. So hopefully tomorrow can be really the start of something.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll go have some fun tomorrow. But no, there's a lot of good stuff coming, so I'm looking forward to, having fun with the whole crew tonight here. Won't be having too much to drink, that's for sure.
Afternoon tea time tomorrow?
No, we're early. So I'll probably have a drink with my Pro-Am group tonight, and we enjoyed our time out there. So we'll go have a good one tomorrow, and then we're right off to Scottish.
Enjoy it. Thanks for your time.
Yep, thank you.
Well, Colin, you look like a man who was enjoying those 18 holes. You fully embraced it.
That's why we're here. Obviously we're coming halfway across the world, and we're here to support JP. We're here to support Ireland. We're here to support Irish golf. And that's the biggest thing, is to have fun, enjoy the people that have donated their time and their money and efforts to support just everything that's happening these 2 days of this kind of week long venture. So it's been awesome. You have to enjoy it, and thankfully we're able to make a few birdies out there.
You're building up towards a huge week of links golf, but this is a future Ryder Cup course. When you're out there, are you trying to learn things still about your game? Are you trying to fine-tune things? Or is it just actually this is a nice 2 days away from home, totally relaxed, chilled out?
It's a 2 days of just to enjoy, right? Obviously, I'm still going to want to play well and work on my golf game, but, thinking even 2027, that's just too far. And obviously it'd be nice to know what this golf course is like and seeing it for 2 days. But obviously there's a lot in between that I want to accomplish. So.
Yeah. Is this your first time in Ireland?
Second. First one was at Carton House.
Right.
Played the World Team Am in 2018.
Have you had a chance to play some links golf around Ireland yet?
I have not. I wish I had more time.
You didn't get the invite from JT and Jordan?
I was still so jet lagged.
They were drinking Guinness at 10 in the morning.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. Guinness tastes a little bit better out here.
Yeah. These are an incredibly special couple of weeks for you coming up, heading to St Andrews, the 150th Open Championship as the defending champion, Claret Jug in tow. Can you just express what that means to you as a golfer?
I mean, you just said it right there. It's a mouthful, but it's so meaningful, right? The history, everything coming back, defending, me never being at St Andrews. There's a lot that's going to happen, but I got to remember I want to come back and defend. I got to play some pretty good golf, and thankfully the swing and body has been feeling pretty good.
You're going to have a big Irish support behind you as well. I think they loved watching you there.
Thank you.
Well, Seamus, you're just off the course here in Adare Manor. How was it?
Geez, spectacular, to be honest. It was my first time seeing it now since all the redos, and it did not disappoint. It was something else to play.
The crowds are slightly insane. You've had a good 4 or 5 days of playing in front of a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah, that was, the size of the event, just like, I guess I wasn't quite grasping it, to be honest, until I kind of showed up today. It's unbelievable, but it just shows, the quality of the venue here. Like, it fit whatever it is, 40,000 people, no problem. It's fantastic out there.
There's any amount of stats that show the progress you've made in your career over the last year, the rise up the world rankings, even since the last time you played in Ireland. How different is it an experience actually being out on the course compared to when you played in Ireland 3-4 years ago?
It's totally different. I underestimated until kind of last week in Mount Juliet. It was the last time I would have played would have been 19 in Lahinch, and obviously I had my own support and kind of family and friends and stuff, but this time it was very different. Seeing the crowds out Mount Juliet and again today, but it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. It's it's one of those things that's nice to be able to share with kind of people back home.
Yeah, it's your first time experiencing this. I know Shane Lowry often says he struggled at times to figure out how to handle an Irish Open week and the expectation. Everyone wants a bit of your time. Did you learn a lot from last week? Because obviously you put yourself in a great position heading into the weekend.
I did, yeah. I mean, but as he said, it's busy. Like, it's more than I'd ever seen. Obviously, Shane's been doing that now for a long time. But yeah, it's very different. As you're being dragged here and there. But, there are problems I'll happily try to deal with. It was just great experiences last week and obviously again today.
And building up towards St Andrews now and an Open Championship. What's the plan then for the next 10 days?
I'm going to enjoy it again tomorrow, and then maybe I probably won't do much Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe do just some of the touristy things, and then probably go play some links golf towards the weekend.
Ireland?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So haven't decided where. I'm going to try to play County Down on Sunday afternoon on the way to getting the ferry. So that maybe I'll pick up another links course along the way.
Yeah, in terms of aspirations then for St Andrews, obviously your record in the majors has been exceptional as well. You're probably quickly getting past the stage of I'm looking around, I'm enjoying all this, to actually I'm in the form of my life, I really want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously both. I mean you still want to take advantage because you just don't know with this game. There's ups and downs, and you obviously want to be there a long time, but you just don't know. So you're definitely going to take it in, enjoy it, but at the same time I'll be preparing to put myself in a good spot going into Sunday.
I'll enjoy the next few weeks.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Right, you're very welcome back